5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
My jingle bell cup. All right, boys, ready?
Ready to go.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. And here we go. What's up,
back.
boys?
What's going on?
How's it
Not
going?
much. Welcome back, Nate.
Thanks for having me again. It's always great being here.
It is.
The
It is good having you.
third time.
Yeah, so people don't realize that last time. Before, I don't want to skip Dan right now because we almost just skipped Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dan McIntyre's in the house. Dan is Nate's striking coach.
Yeah,
So
he
we'll
is.
get more into that as the podcast goes along. Podcast.
Yep.
I haven't been drinking yet. So that brings me up to last time we had Nate on, and we totally food barred his podcast. So I'm looking at Brett, who was sitting in the corner over there, and I'm giving him the look, and he's looking at me like, "What are you looking at me like that for?" Because inside my stomach, I'm getting ready to throw up as I'm sitting here, and I only had that one shot
Right.
in the glass of Coke. And we were just joking earlier, like Alex should have been the one throwing up. So finally, I just looked at him. I'm like, I gotta go. So I got up and I went in the other room and I violently threw up for probably about 15 minutes. And then Brett let you guys outside like a true gentleman.
Yep. And then I guess we'll call that the lost episode.
Yeah, because the next step was my wife, who has a brain injury. I asked her to take the video off the camcorder and then onto the laptop. And in between, I have a file transfer that makes it a little easier, and she didn't use it. She tried going old school, and it just got deleted.
It happens.
So I felt terrible, but we're back again, and Nate is up to some great things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grab my phone, Nate, because I suck at remembering things. I have the mentality of a 2-year-old. But it is pulled up right here already. So your new stats are now you're 5-1,
5-1 now, yeah.
4 KOs
Yep.
or TKOs.
Yep.
You fought in August, September, November,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the first fighter to fight in 3 consecutive shows in 3 different states and to win all 3.
Yeah.
Now, is that just for your dojo, or is that for...
That was for CES.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
So for like the biggest promotion on the Northeast. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Yeah,
I
and
love
to
it.
do it in like 4 months.
Sure.
So, yeah, especially after Bellator, because I don't remember when like the last podcast we did where I don't know if I had just come off the Bellator loss or.
No, so
what.
you were...
The loss was
You were
your
just
first
going.
one, your first fight,
of
right?
this year,
Yeah.
in April. I fought in April, and at that point I was still part of FAA, and then we left and started our own place, and it was me, Alex, and Dan, and then since then 3-0.
Yeah.
So
So I was blessed enough to go to the one at Mass Mutual, and that was awesome. You know, I know you couldn't see me until you knew where I was, but I'm out there screaming like I'm gonna kick his ass. And
Did you have
people-
a sign? Did you bring a sign?
Well, you know, we had really good seats. Well, in theory, we had
Did
really
they
good
do
seats.
signs? I don't know. Is signs a thing anymore, or is that just WWE?
I mean, the ring girls had signs.
Oh, okay.
Signs can be a thing if you want them to.
Yeah,
be.
you can just be like, you know,
Can they really?
I
Yeah.
heart Nate, you know.
If you want.
my wife used to make faces of like the ridiculous faces I'd make over like the years of us being together, and she put them on popsicle sticks, and she'd like hand them out to people so you could see like my face like all over the place. She hasn't done it in a while. She hasn't done it since I've been a pro, I don't think. But
Oh, really?
She did it as an amateur. Yeah, she has like a ton of them. Like,
Oh,
just,
we
like,
gotta get back on
ridiculous
that,
faces.
yeah.
Thing. Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I feel like,
He just looks out in the audience, and there's a whole bunch of him.
yeah, I feel like that should be a thing, like at every fight, and it's just like, you know, you automatically know who the favorite is just based on how many faces you see.
Yeah, there was a time where I was, and I hate to admit this, but I was like, my wife was an Xbox widow. I was playing Call of Duty,
Xbox Widow.
and I was to a point where it was absurd how many hours I was playing. And so it was back when you could do those tournaments. So I was doing it with my clan, and she sends me a picture. She took a picture of me and put it on the kitchen chair. With my meal in front of me.
Like you were sitting in front of her.
Yeah. And I felt horrible after that. But I still played because I'm a man, and I keep it real. And I slept on a couch for a long time after that, I'm not going to lie. So we have old duels today for anybody out there wondering what we're drinking. Probably, you know, I didn't expect to for you to bring this tonight.
Didn't expect to be cracking open a cold non-alcoholic beer?
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I'm all about the non-alcoholic beer because I'm not a man. I can't handle my liquor, apparently. And do you guys want one?
If you don't mind, I'll take
yeah.
one. It's non-alcoholic. That'd be great for me. Thank you, sir.
Well, fight's breaking out tonight.
I'll take one after I finish the hard
All
stuff.
right, you let me know.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, man.
Yeah,
all that
who's
raspberry lime.
driving? Who's driving?
That stuff will kill you.
Yeah, switching it up a little bit with the non-alcoholic, you know.
Let's give it the old test run. Cheers,
Yeah.
boys. Thank you
Cheers.
for
I
coming
already-
down.
Thank
I
you.
already
Thanks
took
for
this
having
one
us.
for a test
Yeah,
drive. Tastes like shitty beer.
Yeah, it tastes like, it almost tastes like a Bud Light, which I can respect. You know, people always give Bud Light a bad rap, man, but I'll tell you, it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, you don't drink it for its amazing flavor, you know,
Just
but
drink it for a good time.
yeah,
That's what it's all about.
it's a sipping,
It's
it's
toilet
not a
water
sipping
that
beer.
gets you drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
But it's an
urine
all-day
or
drinker.
Bud Light. I'm gonna take the Bud Light.
Yeah,
you know
it's
what I
like
mean.
an all-day
It's-
drinker. Like that's something where it's like you're out, you know, like at a barbecue and you're drinking all day. Like you can't do like double IPAs, you know.
or like a Guinness.
Yeah, you'll be passed out in your lawn chair by like 7.
Like,
you know?
let's go drink a Guinness and go roll around on the mat.
Oh man, sounds like a good time.
Imagine what that. It's like drinking like a whole meal, like times 10.
What, a Guinness?
A Guinness.
No,
Oh, it's
no,
disgusting.
that's delicious.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can have that.
Well, I'm a fan of all, just at the right time, which is why I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer because you know I'm just trying to really branch out,
Trying to keep it real. Although
broaden my palate.
with the last podcast, we had a guest on here that works at a whiskey bar. What was the name of the whiskey bar? I don't.
Whiskey
it's in
on
my notes.
water,
Yeah,
in Worcester. Yeah.
I'm a big whiskey guy. Like that used to be my jam
Oh,
back
it's
in the
amazing
day.
when you walk in. It's like a library. Like behind the bar is just a giant shelf and everyone is like just a different bottle.
I picture that's kind of what heaven is. You know, you just go into your
Like they have a ladder
Yeah.
to climb up on to grab stuff. And then upstairs is just like a giant dance club, but the downstairs is like a nice, like, you know, bar.
So it's more classy downstairs. than-
Yeah, I mean, once you get past a certain time, the whole place just gets crazy. You know, but like that downstairs, you go in there, you know, 5, 6 o'clock, you know, to have like a glass of whiskey before or after dinner or something.
Yep.
You know, it's nice and mellow, and then like 11 o'clock, it's just madness hits.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
love it.
it's a good time.
Well, I want to go for one of the whiskeys that they do. They put smoke in there and they put the cover on it, and then they say it really does change the flavor of the whiskey. But I'd love to try that. I mean, chances are pretty good I'll be thrown up in the bathroom afterwards. But
Yeah, as long as, maybe it's the pork chop whiskey combo.
you know, I just hate to figure out what I don't want to like. I don't want to reenact that day because you know what I mean. Like, I'm sure it was the pork chops, but it was embarrassing nonetheless.
For me, it would have been the whiskey. For me, it would have been the whiskey. I can't drink that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, especially not Jack. No, I'm good.
That's what we were drinking that night, right? Too,
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was
Wasn't
Jack
yeah?
Daniels,
Okay.
Yeah, it was a big old bottle of Jack Daniels.
I still have some of it in my.
yeah, I can
yeah.
stay over there.
Yeah, it's locked up. It's not. It knows better. It knows not. It's not allowed to come out.
So how's the new place?
New place is good. I mean, it's been good for the last. We started in about May.
Yeah,
End of May.
Yep.
So it's been good. It's been going well so far, but we're looking to kind of like change things up a little bit. And we're getting to a point now in my career where I'm 5-1, so it gets us closer to like the bigger shows. And whether it's after this, we get 1 or 2 more. I mean, the Contender Series is coming around in August. So my manager tells me that they're casting in April. I'd like to fight a couple more times before then. I mean, we're talking about it, seeing like what's going on. But for us, we've been obviously doing a lot of training, but a lot of having the gym has to do with teaching a lot of the other guys as well. So it's taking time away from like consistently training together and getting one-on-one time. Same thing with Alex, like he's coaching his classes, or I'm coaching my classes, Dan's coaching his classes. So it's like we're kind of spreading ourselves to the point where now looking towards the future and where we're at in our career, it's like we really want to make it to the big show. We really want to succeed at the big show. So we have to kind of condense it and consolidate it. So we're looking at like possibly moving to different places like Texas and Florida. You know? So,
Yep.
at this point, we're looking to pretty much close up shop in January and start really hitting it hard so that we can, you know, make sure that we're ready when the time comes. Because, like, obviously Bellator was a great opportunity. I had only started training with him at that time, probably like 4 or 5 months prior to that.
Oh no
It's
kidding.
been
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I would say at this point, like, even today in November, what is it, the 29th, 28th?
Yeah.
Like, we'd only been training together for a year. That's it.
Oh wow.
So in the time that I've progress is incredible. Like
Yeah.
the amount of stuff that I've learned from this guy, like the time that we've put in together and the things that he's taught me is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
everything that I have ever wanted in a coach, like this guy has provided me. And
And you were a striker dominantly anyway, right?
yeah, I mean, I started with
Yeah.
wrestling, but I fell in love with striking.
Yeah.
And when I started training with him, it was like I realized like I was a good striker, especially around here. Like I know I was one of the better strikers around here because most guys didn't want to strike with me; they want to grapple. But since training with him, it was like realizing like, oh shit, I don't actually know as much as I think I
Yeah.
do. And so now to see like to look back on the last year and see how far, because when I started at this year, January, I was 2-0, 5-1 now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like that's huge. And one of the fights was in Bellator.
Yeah.
So it's like this year's been monumental in terms of fighting, and like changing the way that we like approach things has made all the difference. So I think going forward, especially with like the gym and everything, it's like it makes more sense for us to condense what we need to do and focus on what the original goal was. Like we opened the gym so that we had a place to train, because at the time we were training in my parents' basement. So, and now it's time to like, again, level up again. So we're all about improving, upgrading, getting better. So we believe this is the next path and the next direction we want to take it. So
why Texas or Florida? What's the attraction to those two states?
There's a lot of gyms there.
Is there really?
Yeah, there's a lot more gyms. There's a lot more higher level competitors down there. It's more concentrated, and warmer weather.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, other than the obvious, and Texas is a free state. Well, actually, so is Florida now. Those are all bonuses.
Yep.
So, do you know? So, what's the next step for you now? Like, where would you go from here? Who would you fight? Is there anybody in the running?
yeah, I mean, there's quite a few guys around the area that are still like.
Can we call them out right now and start?
We can. We
talking?
could definitely talk about them. I mean, there's guys like there's talks of this guy Connor Matthews. There's talks of guys like Peter Barrett. There's talks of guys named Josh Harvey. They're all up in like the top ranks and ahead of me. They've been doing it for a while. Peter Barrett just got cut from the UFC last year, so he's started fighting on the circuit. He's trying to get back to the UFC.
Okay.
So
if you get cut, there's definitely a way to get back.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you get cut, there's guys who've been cut and then they like find their way back, or they find a big show that's not the UFC, but they find that maybe they get paid better,
Yeah.
So it's always like, I mean, I don't know that much about him other than like his like what he does training and stuff. I just know that most guys, especially around here, that are like at that high level, they want to be in the UFC. Most people want to get to the UFC. Like most people aren't really looking for Bellator or like ONE or some of these other places, World Series of Fighting, or what is it, PFL?
PFL now, yeah.
Mhm.
But those are guys that like I've looked at. Like I research everybody in the area. Like I know who everybody is. There's not a single person on that in the featherweight division that I don't know. Like I know who you are. I've watched your fights. I know what you're doing. And honestly, it's gonna depend on like how after my last fight, obviously my toe, we're like healing. We want to take some time for skill.
We're gonna put a picture of that on
Perfect.
the podcast.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I'll tell you what. I looked at that toe and I'm like, whoa.
Oh,
Have you seen it yet?
no.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
yeah. I would have went out in a stretcher. I'm just saying because that shit looked painful, man. And you fought like that while it was like open on that, and you kept kicking this guy.
Yeah.
And so that takes a set of nuts, like to keep going. And I'm sorry, but I mean it is true. Like most people would have just been like, I'm done. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, there was no chance of that. I
No.
mean, to get to where we are, to put all the time and effort in. I mean, together, like we only met each other for like in the last year. I've been training for the last year, but like on his own time, like he's been training and studying to be a coach. Like I've been training and studying to be a fighter, and it's like our paths, they merged at the perfect time.
right.
So for me, it's like right now is the best time. Like for 8 years for him, 8 years for me. Like we've been putting in the time and effort, and like to now finally start moving in the right direction. Like I said, like I'm not far from where I want to be, and so it's like we just want to keep going with it. Like
Yeah.
we're excited, and so depending on how my toe heals, what they tell me, I'm going back to the doctor on December 3rd. They're gonna say. Hopefully they'll tell me I can start wearing shoes and not have to wear this like I'm wearing like a Jesus sandal right now to protect my toe.
Mhm.
But hopefully I can start wearing shoes, then I can start like actually boxing and moving around, because like it doesn't really hurt. Like I'm hitting the bag and everything. Like I'm shadow boxing and moving on, and it's fine. But like obviously I can't kick with it. I can't really like press off of it. And I mean it's more of a restriction because of the sandal, not so much because of
Right.
it hurts,
Yeah.
So we'll see what they say, and then from there, after the holidays, think like after New Year's. I mean, by then I'm hoping I can actually start like getting back into working, but then we'll start looking at like different options, because working with CES has been awesome. They've done an awesome job. They've been having me at shows. They've been getting me back in there really quick. So my manager and the people of CES, we're going to talk and see what the next step is and like what they want to do. I know they have a show in February, but I really wanted to take time off till March to really get ready.
CES is short for what?
Classic Sports and Entertainment.
Okay.
Classic Entertainment Sports or something like that. I think
Yeah.
it's something like that. But like, yeah, I mean, like fighting for them, I mean, they've had tons of guys come through there and go to the UFC, and some guys have gone to Bellator as well. So, I mean, they have a lot of connections, and like my manager has connections. So it's just making sure that we're ready for that time. I mean, like, I feel like every fight, obviously, August, September, like a month, and then November. So it was like but I felt in each fight there was progression. Like I felt the difference.
We visually saw that progression.
Yeah,
I mean, because me, I was in the living room the first time. I kicked everybody out of the house, like literally. I'm like, you either go upstairs, get out of my way, because I was all in, man. And the next fight I saw after that, I definitely saw progression.
Yeah.
And the next fight after that, I saw more progression, and I definitely saw like a sense of I don't know how to say it, like you were definitely focused better.
Yeah.
And like you were laser focused.
Yeah.
You knew what you wanted and you were going after it.
Right.
And you were definitely picking up on the other guy's his weakness. And you took advantage of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I felt that, and I think a lot of that came from the approach, and a lot of that's come from like changing the environment that I'm in. Him and Alex have allowed me to really be who I am. I'm not saying that other coaches in the past haven't, but like they've really kind of like we've talked about like frequency, and like we're all on the same frequency in that way where it's like we're all kind of similar and we all have a similar mindset to this, and it's like we're all just trying to get better, and it's like I feel like every fight I felt like I could be more and more myself. And I don't know if I would be at that point if I was still doing what I was doing before. And it's just, again, I think it's the environment. I think it's like the people you surround yourself with. Like people are, it's not that someone's right or wrong. It's more like who you connect with and you feel comfortable with the most. And like since the Bellator fight, even with them, like the week leading up to that fight, it like felt awesome. Yeah. I spent most of my time with Alex and Dan in the hotel, shooting the shit, talking about fighting, talking about philosophy, like all that shit. So it was like, and then since then, like I said, like each fight, the Daejuan fight in August, then to September, it was like each fight I could physically feel and mentally feel that I was more and more myself, and I was focused. Like you said, like even in the Daejuan fight, I was like half focused. Then the Eduardo fight, which was the next one, was like I was like focused, and then the Tom Pags one, which was the last one, I was like there, all of it. Like that was it. Like I was me. I was doing what I do, and it's like I truly am like grateful for him, and I'm truly grateful for Alex because they've allowed me to do that, and they put the time in to like get me there. Like I wouldn't be fighting at the level that I am without these guys. Like I'd be good, but I wouldn't be like at the level that I'm at right now without them and without their mind and without the drills that they're putting me through and the things they're teaching me. I really do believe that.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, there's something to be said about your circle, right? We talk about it all the time.
Yep.
Show me your circle, and I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
And when I was starting the podcast, it's basically, it's not the same, but it kind of is how you were starting off and you were looking for somebody to really support you and get you to the next level. And then Brett showed up, and Matt will cycle through every once in a while now. He's so busy with school and coaching.
Matt was the OG.
Yeah. But, it's that point in your life where somebody shows up like to say, okay, I'm here too. And then your circle gets a little bit tighter, and you have that support system. So, Dan, talk to me about how did you ever get started in doing what you do?
When I started training late. Like I started training at 25. I'm 33 now.
Oh, wow.
And I started actually at like a Krav Maga school.
Yep.
And that's like a lot of self-defense stuff, and like some of it's good, but like a lot of it, like in a fight, it's not really effective. Like a lot of the way a lot of places are training. And we would like go to sparring. Like my buddy that got me into it, we'd go to sparring and we'd kind of get lit up, and we were like, all right, we need to do more than what we're doing now. And like we were kind of breezing the workouts. Like we were in pretty good shape, and we weren't getting tired. We weren't really working up a sweat. So then he had actually trained my friend Chris, who brought me to the Krav Maga school. He had actually trained at FAA for a while doing Muay Thai. And he was like, you know what? Like, I know all this Muay Thai stuff. He's like, we'll train in my garage, or his porch it started on. And then he renovated his garage to be a gym. And we just kind of kept training there. And like eventually, like we stopped going to the Croft place, you know, and we were like, let's just train on our own, like extra. And we trained there like at least 3 days a week. Pads, just basics, the fundamentals, you know, because we didn't know anything really, you know. And just kind of kept working on it. I joined Team Link for about a year. He went to Gladiator and did jiu-jitsu for a little bit. And we just kind of kept training. Like the approach was more like martial arts because I didn't have any. I have one fight. Like I didn't have any real like aspirations to make it to like the UFC or anything. I just wanted to be good at fighting.
Right.
Like, you know, I had gotten into it more for self-defense really at first. And so yeah, I just kind of kept training. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could fight. And then like I left Team Link. I kept training at the garage. Some of the guys that I was training with, they decided they wanted to start fighting. Like, so we did some amateur kickboxing fights. Like I fought. Chris's brother Andrew fought. My buddy Matt, he's a kickboxer. He's based out of Maine right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he still fights. He just had a title fight up in Vermont.
How'd he do?
He lost the decision.
Did he?
Yeah. He had a war with the guy.
Did he?
Oh,
Those are the best.
Yeah. Yep. He's about it. He goes to war with people.
Does he?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I kept training. I joined John Manley's when he was still open in East Hampton. And I was
really?
training there. Yeah, I was getting ready to fight. I was going to try to do another fight before everything started shutting down. And then we just went back to the garage again, like throughout COVID and all that. And then I met Nate. You know, I started training with him, and then everything kind of opened back up. We kept working.
Yeah.
You know, but most of my training is out of that garage, you know, and like we trained people that, like we would have people that never threw a punch before come in and like try to and train them from the ground up, you know, and some of them, they just learned how to like box or, you know, fight Muay Thai for self-defense or just to stay in shape.
Right.
You know, but I've just been training, you know, people for the whole time. Like we ended up as like coaches by default, just trying to get people to learn more, you know, because it's like, well, you can only throw so like hook, cross, kick, you know, so many times. Like you're going to want to learn more and develop. You're going to want to find ways to do it better. So it's just focusing on that for this whole time.
So did you find out like striking was your strong point?
Yeah, I when I started watching like Muay Thai, especially, like I really like fell in love with that. Like it's probably my favorite art, like to watch. It's just really well-rounded striking. I don't know. I really took to it. I really, you know, I enjoyed it, and I took to it. I did it because I enjoyed it. You know, so yeah, that's why I got into it. You know.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. People think it's easy to throw a punch, and it's not to throw an effective punch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can definitely see where, you know, you play a very valuable role, especially with his training and, you know, training in general, but how that could really make the difference. Because, you know, I see a lot of times when I watch people fight, it goes to the ground like in seconds, and you can tell those guys want no part of standing up in trading punches. But the guys that do, you know, obviously puts on a better show. But it really does separate the men from the boys, because if you can be more well-rounded that way, I think your success level shoots right up. Yeah. I mean, I guess you can win. You can be like Royce Gracie didn't throw many punches, but look what he did. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, what do you think?
I don't know, you guys lost me a long time ago. I mean, I get what, you know, I get the general principle, but I'm not like a fan, you know. So like I understand the principles. I can't say I've ever watched, you know, like a match or two.
Well, I'll tell you, if they fight locally, we're going.
All right.
And we'll have a good time.
All right.
And I was.
It's not that I dislike it. I don't watch sports in general. So it's.
Well, I'll tell you, ever since I watched Royce Gracie fight in the UFC, that's what changed it for me. I mean, nobody knew. I mean, I knew what traditional jiu-jitsu was, but not Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I never knew anybody that fought that or trained that or anything, and he beat that guy in his back. And the whole crowd, I mean, I go back and I watch that every now and then, and the whole crowd just goes absolutely apeshit. Because no one, even those guys who've been in the business, never seen anything like that. You know what I mean? So I think that was the pinnacle and definitely the turning point for martial arts, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that was definitely a big step, like a big leap. And especially like martial arts, like I think competition wise, because that was the whole find out what style's the best. But
Right.
you're finding, like you were saying earlier, like you have to be well rounded. Like at the top level, like you have to be able to strike somewhat or deal with strikes, or and you have to be able to grapple or deal with grappling in some form. Like you can't have a big hole like
Yeah.
at the top level, and you'll see some guys who do. Like you'll see some guys like they don't want to go to the ground at all, and it's like you can't be there. Like if you have that big of a hole, like at that level, like somebody's gonna find it eventually.
Yeah.
You might get away with it for a while, but it's coming.
Yeah. I like what you said about dealing with it, because there's a point in time those cards are going to be laid out. You'll definitely have to deal with one or the other. So if you're weak in any one of those, that's where I think you could certainly lose a fight very quickly. When I watch some of these things, and anytime I see somebody give the back up, and I'm like, oh, here we go, and then next thing you know, it's see you later. But so what does your training look like between the two of you guys now? Like, so out of a typical day, what does that look like?
Usually we drill, like we'll drill for about 2 hours. We mostly focus on drilling. A lot of footwork drills, a lot of defense, a lot of range, like measuring range. Like a lot of this stuff is people will overlook it. Like they want to go right into striking and combos and stuff that like, I want to hit.
Right.
And like old school boxing coaches, like there's boxers, like they would train boxers for months, and it's like you do 15 rounds of footwork and maybe you'd get to throw a punch. You know what I mean? And like we don't have that amount of time like to get that work in at the moment, but like we're maximizing that in the time we have. So it's like we're doing a lot of footwork rounds to start out. It's like we'll usually start out with at least a fight's worth of footwork, and then we'll get into drilling defense, and then we start getting into offense after that at the end.
Okay.
And that's like for striking, that's pretty typical. And we'll have different areas of focus like that day when we get into like offense or something like that. Like it might be striking into clinching or, something like that, or sweeps or, something like that.
Yeah, you were working those sweeps.
Yeah.
That was so much fun to watch. So you said, is there a definite of who you might fight next, or is it kind of up in the air?
It's up in the air.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend on like what promotions offer what. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. I think CES is going to want me to sign with them, with the idea of like trying to get to the UFC. But we got to see like what it's all about, like what they want to, what they want from me, and like talk about like what I want. And like Dan, Alex, and I are gonna we've had multiple conversations. We talk all the time, so it's like we've had a lot of different conversations about where we want to go, what we want to do, and like I mean personally, I think the most important thing is that like we said, like we gotta close the gym first and like let everybody know like, hey, like if you like, we're gonna keep some guys where we can work with them. Because like at the end of the day, still need training partners and guys that like want to work, but understanding that like this is progressing forward to like where we want to be. Like the goal for me has always been to be in the UFC. Fighting for Bellator is awesome though. I liked fighting for Bellator. I thought that they did a great job. I thought that I love the cage. It's massive, and the people there are really nice. So I mean, and at some point it too, I also want to make money doing this. I don't want to be getting paid like a little bit of money here and there, like, because at the end of the day, you might have 3 fights. Like I was healthy. I could fight 4 times this year, which is great. That's a little bit of extra money in my pocket here and there.
Now, is that typical, the amount of times a fighter would fight in a year? Or is that
no? Usually guys about 3 fights a year, most likely. Like that's the average. I would say 3 fights, 2 to 3. 4's like. Not a lot of guys fight 4 times a year, and not a lot of guys fight as many times as they did in the time that I did.
Right.
So, and I'm glad it worked out because I had a year and a half off, in like right after November 2019, I had shoulder surgery. So I was out for 6 months. And then when I got back and started getting into it, COVID happened.
Yep.
Promotion. So I was out, for that 6 months, and then COVID happened. So now promotions aren't doing shows.
Right.
And I didn't have enough wins under my belt to fight for a Bellator or a UFC when they were like really looking for guys. They were just picking anybody up at that point. You know what I mean? But I was 2-0.
Right.
So it's like, what can you know what I mean? And so I was fortunate that in April, Bellator called and they were like, hey, do you want to fight? And it's like, I hadn't fought in like a year and a half. So I was like, yeah.
So is that what they do? They come looking for you? Can you like put your name in the hat and say?
I don't really know how. So some guys have done it without managers. I don't know how they've done it. I think Bellator like looks around, and especially in New England because they were stationed at Mohegan. That's where they were
Right.
running all their shows. So for me, I have a manager. My manager is in contact with Bellator. He was in contact with CFFC. He's in contact with a couple other promotions all over the place. So he had come to me and said, hey, Bellator's looking for a guy at 145. Would you be willing to fight? And I was like, yeah. Like, I've been training, so I've been training even with after shoulder surgery. I was still like teaching people in classes, and I was doing, I'd do like one arm pads. So I had my arm tucked, and I was just hitting pads with my right arm and kicking and kneeing and elbowing and like doing what I could do until I could start grappling. And even during COVID, like I would find training partners at that time to just in the beginning of COVID, and I would go into the gym. I got a key to the gym. I'd go to the gym and I would just train with people who would show up and train. Like we weren't supposed to be in there, but we still went in there and trained, and anybody I could work with to get the work in that I needed to get. So
yeah. I can see the doctor now. Sorry, he's like, Nate, I don't want you doing this, and this, and there's Nate, and he's like, yeah, I'm in.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when what the doctor says, because that's gonna be dependent, whatever they tell me, because they didn't give me really any information. They just said like, hey, we'll want to see you back on December 3rd, and this was like 3 weeks ago.
So let's say like you're going to go an absurd amount of time that you can't fight. Are you willing to take the toe off?
I told them in the hospital, I was like, do you think it's better to just get it removed?
Because when I first saw it, I was like,
sorry. So what happened? Tell me like what caused it and like what was the end result? I mean, not just
So basically when I went back and watched the fight, like I remember it happened in the first round. So in the first round it happened, and because I can remember towards the end of the round I was like stepping on it. I didn't feel it, but I couldn't feel pain, but I could feel like my toe.
Something
like I
was
could feel
off.
it folding under my foot when I was walking. Yeah, like every time I'd move like side to side, I could feel it like folding under. And when you go back and watch the fight, you can actually see it looks like my toe is missing a couple times. It looks like there's a hole. It looks like this when you're like stepping.
Yeah.
So and I think it was so he did a great job of it. So I probably kicked him like 5 times in the first round, and then he started like switching his dropping stance. So I kicked his knee and shin, and I think just as he's doing it, I was like nicking my toe, and I think that's what dislocated it. And then as you're going through the second round, still trying to throw the calf kicks, he did a much better job of like moving around. And then I nicked my toe a couple more times, and I think the bone, because of the dislocation, it just like went through the skin. So by the second round, halfway through the second round, the toe's sticking out. There's blood all over the place. And then the third round, same. I mean, it was already out at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, after the first round, I went back to the stool and was like, yo, because I was like, I've dislocated my finger before, and I went into shock in the middle of the fight, and I still won the fight, but I didn't want to have that moment again where I was like, oh fuck, like so. I went back to the corner and I was like, yo, is my toe broken? And I asked him, and he was like, yeah, it's broken or something. Like I don't know what he saw at that point.
It was the second round.
He's like, just don't look at it.
First round, he came back to the corner fine. And I was like, everything you're doing is good. Like, we need to try to fight his hands more and like try to close the distance because he's just kind of running.
Yeah.
And then second round, he comes back, and first thing, he sits on the stool. He goes, I think my toe is broken. Is the bone sticking out?
Oh.
And I look down and I see the bone and it's all bloody. And I was like, oh yeah, that's broken.
now can you put like tape on it at that moment?
No,
you can't.
No,
do
they
it
could have stopped. I think they could have stopped the fight
if they noticed.
If they noticed, I don't know how they
all right.
didn't notice it. Like even the announcers, like if you go back and watch the fight, they're like, "Oh, it looks like he probably cut him with his toenail or something." They didn't know it was my foot. They thought, and some guy thought it was his calf that was bleeding from kicking him.
Yeah,
but it's like, but yeah, like because I remember after the first round, like I might not have said it, but I felt my toe. I was like, I'm stepping on something.
See, I didn't
What
really
is
notice
that?
anything until the third round. You started to kind of like you could see it, like, and I'm like, what's wrong with him? Because we like you could see the blood on his calf and everything like that. But that's what I thought it was. I thought you just ripped him open. I mean, you were hitting him pretty good, in the same spot over and over and over again. So I'm like, okay, you probably opened him up. But I had no idea right to the end.
Yeah, when they showed it. Yeah, it's pretty gross. So basically,
so the bone was just sticking out.
bone was sticking out.
So it was just flopping around on skin, basically.
Yeah.
like it could have just gone flying off.
Yeah, I mean, I looked down, and after the fight ended, because I was like, all right, well, if I go into shock now, it's not as
Don't
big
look
a
at
deal,
it.
you
Don't
know.
look
I
at
looked
it.
down, and I was like, oh, my toe's sticking out. But I was at that point, it was like I had so much adrenaline, you know what I mean? Like it was a big fight for us, because so I don't know, like so we were supposed to fight this guy at 155 pounds. It was actually Hulk Hogan's nephew.
No kidding.
Yeah. So we're supposed to fight Hulk Hogan's nephew. This asshole pulls out the day before weigh-ins. So we had this fight booked for like a month.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's he's posting on Instagram, like he's training, he's good, like he's at the PI, like he's a coach at Syndicate, which is like a big MMA school. They have a ton of fighters that fight out of there. They're in the UFC, and he's one of the coaches there. So I'm thinking this guy's gonna show up. He pulls out last minute, says he got injured. How the fuck did you get injured? Like the day before the fight, 2 days before the fight, So, and then they call me and they offer me this guy. And again, I know everybody in the area. Like I study all the fighters in the area, and they offer us Tom Pagliarulo. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
And who is he's one of the bigger managers in our area. He trains with, that's his manager. He trains with Calvin Cater and Rob Font. Rob Font's fighting in next weekend, I think.
Yeah.
And he trains with those two who are number 3 and number 5 in the world.
Oh wow.
In the weight classes that I want to fight. And he trains with them every day. And a guy that I fought back in 2018, the jiu-jitsu coach who's also a fighter, I fought him back in 2018. He beat me. He's a world champion jiu-jitsu black belt. So it's like they offer me this guy on like a day's like short notice, but we had been studying him. We knew like it would have been better anyway for us to take a fight while he's still like younger. You know what I mean? Like on the lower circuit. He was 3-0. He fought the week before, got a knockout in like 15 seconds or something like that. It was like fast. He's good. He's very good. Like I think he was like an amateur champion, and he was like 5-1 as an amateur champion, 3-0. So we were like, I mean, obviously there were like risks and benefits of it. And it was like, for me, it felt like this is an opportunity. Like when I showed it to Dan, like we discussed it, and we were like, I mean, we were ready. It didn't matter. And it didn't matter who at that point. Cause it's like cause he said to me, he was like, look, if we don't fight now, then you're not fighting, you're not fighting until like, cause I told him and I promised him after my fight in September, I was like, oh, we're going to take some time off. I said that. And then I was like, oh, they offered me another fight. And I was like, oh, I want to fight again. And then
he's like, damn it.
So I told him and I promised them, I said, I'm not going to fight again until March after this fight. And so if I had said no, then it was like, I had to hold my word for this and say, I'm not going to fight. So I was like, fuck, like, well, let's just do this. It's time to get in there and do it. And so like things worked out really well. I mean, in terms of like my style and the things that we worked, like we were ready, it didn't really matter what he brought to the table, and he did exactly what we knew, like we knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And we took it away from him. We shut him down. And people, if you watch the fight, it's like you go back, he didn't actually hit me with a single shot until like a punch until halfway through the second round. They're like, oh, he's frustrating him. He's hitting him. It's like, none of those punches landed. I blocked them all with my forearms and my hands, like and there was a couple of them I slipped really well. So not until the second round, they start actually like hitting me. And that's where I think I get in the third round, I got cut a little bit, but it was like, once he hit me with his right hand, that's just like his power hand. Like he knocked a bunch of dudes out with that hand, and it's like, he hit me with it. I was like, oh, that's it.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I was like, that's what I've been like so worried about. And then I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm
so
just
now,
going after
I
him.
saw you mouthing a lot of stuff.
I was talking so much shit.
I could. So this is my favorite part about the whole thing. So I'm watching this. I'm like, he's talking shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about that. Like, what's the what are you trying to do when you do that? You're trying to get in his head and get him all riled up.
Yeah, and what are you saying? Like,
Yeah,
I
mean, I was saying a bunch of shit. I think it was like the second round I started talking to him a little bit because he hit me, or he was like trying to hit me, and I was like, what is it? Like, I think the first time I said was, that's it. I was like, that's the power. And like a couple shots he hit me that were like pretty clean, and I was like, come on, where's your fucking power? It's like, I was like, you don't hit hard at all. Like, like shit like that. Like, where's your fucking, like, punch me? I was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, he was throwing shit, and I was like, look, like he did one where he threw a kick, and I just stepped out of the way, and I like point over the air, and I look over there, like I'm like, oh, over there, like you missed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I just like to have fun with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like at the end of the day, like there is an aspect of entertainment to this, but there's a mental warfare aspect, and I think part of it is like, again, like I respect him a lot. Like he took the fight on short notice. He's a great competitor. He trains with good people. And he's a nice kid. But there was like no what, it didn't matter what he did. Like I've been putting my time in. I've been doing this for years. Like, I'm not going to have another Cody Law situation where it's like, I had an opportunity there. I came up short, and it's like, I didn't go in there to lose. Like, even with the toe, it was like, people were like, oh, did it hurt? Like, man, like people were like, yeah, like you could have quit. And it's like, no, but like, why would I do that? I've literally invested my entire fucking life into this.
Sure.
I went to fucking college. Like, I have a degree. Like, I'm fucking fighting people for money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to fucking quit because like, if I quit in there, it's just like, fuck. Now it's like, go back to the drawing board and be like, you have that moments. Like, I've had plenty of moments where I've lost fights I should have won. Like, all the guys I've lost to in my career are guys I easily could have beaten.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I look at losses in a whole different way. Like I used to get very frustrated back in the day when I was young about losing anything. Doesn't matter what it was, card game, whatever it was. But I learned from a loss where I obsessed about learning about it
Yes,
and then analyze it, break it down, and I got better the second time.
absolutely.
Just
You know
an
what I mean?
opportunity to learn. That's all it is.
Yeah, and once I allowed myself to like I can make mistakes. It's totally okay to make mistakes, and I can lose. As much as my brain doesn't allow me to sometimes like accept the fact that I lost, once I have like a day or two and I get back into my mindset, I'm like, okay, it happened. It's in the past. I can only drive forward from now. How do I do that now? So it's just go back to basics. What did I do wrong? Did I not prepare myself enough? Especially at work, like you, I'm a coach, in a different thing, but I have to make sure that when I coach somebody, I'm coaching them in the right way and that I'm adjusting myself because I might coach 20 different people in a day. So I have to adjust that to every single person in order so they can understand me. I can understand them. But I know as a coach, that's probably very difficult at times where you're trying to get everything out that you want to get out. You could be tired that day, so tell me, what are some of the things as a coach that you run into that is really hard for you to kind of, get me motivated for the day?
I don't know. I don't really have a hard time getting motivated to coach because, like, I also, like, I work full time. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't make money from coach. I never made money from any coaching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was doing that because I wanted to do it. And so, like, I'll leave work and I can be miserable and I can go coach. And, like, I'm looking forward to coaching. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because what I do as a job, like, I'm a machinist. I don't like doing that. You know what I mean? But it's all right. You know? But I'd rather be coaching. I've always found that I can like relate to people pretty well. So like that's helped me, I think. Cause like, especially like in the garage, like people that my friend Chris worked with would like come in and like, they weren't into fighting. Like they just thought it might be a good idea to know how to throw hands if anybody ever, came at them and, self-defense or stay in shape. And it's like, these people don't understand. They don't watch fights. Like they don't obsess about fights like I do and watch them. They're not watching UFC events and boxing fights and all this stuff. So you have to learn how to explain things to people in a way that they understand, and like, there's a lot of ways to relate to people. Like if anybody plays any kind of sports, a lot of that will relate back to fighting. So it's just finding like those links. But like you said, like you have to tailor it to each person.
Right.
Like very few people, I think, like fall into that militant, like rigid, like this is the way it is, like you fit the system and just like, mold yourself to that and find success. Like some people are cut out for that, but not everybody. So I think like being able to like, be adaptable and like relatable. Cause like I found that I've always managed to find some way to like relate to somebody to like try to explain it to them. I'll keep working at it until something clicks,
Yeah.
I won't just be like, oh, you just don't get it. You know what I mean? Or just keep beating them over the head with the same thing. Like, what does that do?
Right.
They just feel like they're doing it wrong and they start breaking down. They're just like, oh, I don't understand it. I guess I just don't get it. And it's like, no, like we just got to keep working at it,
We'll find that different way.
Yeah,
to teach.
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. There's going to be something that makes like the dots connect. So like, it's just finding that.
Yeah.
If you can't cater it correctly, then eventually the other person might just shut down and you kind of just, they kind of throw their hands up in the air.
Yeah.
Just got to change it up a little bit. And like you said, you just got to cater it to whoever you're dealing with. And sometimes it takes a couple tries.
Yeah. I mean, even when we like, so me and Brett came from a retail background originally. And, there were times where I had 65 people in my store that I had to train, coach. And, sometimes I walked into that building, if my mindset wasn't right, I affected 65 people. You know what I mean? And I think it took me a while to be able to, I think my turning point really was when I became coachable. Because there was a point in time where, and I was telling Nate at one time, I used to love to fight back in the day, and for all the wrong reasons. I'd get drunk. In fact, I didn't even have to be drunk most of the time, but I would go after the biggest guy. And I only learned my lesson once. Thank God. But it was a very valuable lesson, and that guy really hurt me, hurt me bad. And I finally said to myself, I can't be like that anymore. Like, what am I doing? And then I met my wife, and she totally changed the kind of person I was, I became more loving, more. I was loving to my friends, but other than that, I wasn't really. I probably wouldn't have been someone you even wanted to be around, really, because I had a lot of anger issues and stuff like that. And once I got rid of all that, I went to therapy. I started doing the right thing. I had another kid. My wife said to me, she's like, if you were like that going forward, I would never be with you. And I adored her from day one. So I'm like, okay, I need to change. And then, I started hanging around with better people. And I started hanging around with better people like senior year, whatever. But if I would have hung around with the people I was back when I was a little kid, or, even into my early teens, I'd probably be in prison. And, I think that, and we talked about this on the last podcast. I think, you can always tell somebody who's really entrenched in what you do. I'm sure there's an exception here and there, but the people I've had the fortune of talking to are very gentle. Your aura is definitely, you can tell, you know what I mean? Where you meet somebody outside of that arena and you can automatically tell they're an a-hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between, being able to fight and being able to be very good at it, even at a basic level. If you were to get into a scrap outside in public, chances are pretty good that you're going to be able to, take care of that. But you guys don't walk around that way. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is huge, right? And especially when it relates to you as a coach, training those people to be, and you talked a lot about philosophy. So when you guys are in the hotel, what kind of philosophy are you guys going over? Because I'm so interested in that.
Just like the way, like the way that's like, it's funny. Like we always say, this is the way, but like joking from the TV show we watched, the Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, this is the way, but it's like, it's kind of like the Tao, like the way isn't really the way. If you think you know the way, then you're wrong kind of thing. It's like, just like kind of learning about like ourselves and learning about the approach to fighting and the way that you want to like carry yourself as an individual, like how you treat people, how you teach, like, cause especially opening the gym. And even when I was at FAA, like I would still teach, like how you want to like present yourself for other people to like help them get to the next level, that kind of stuff, like how to be a better person, how to be a smarter person, how to learn from like your failures and then like share that with other people. I don't know if you have anything to touch on it. Just that's kind of like,
we talk about a lot of things.
There's a lot of stuff. Like it's almost like if one of us is off, the other one's going. Where one of the three of us is always talking, and it's just like you're not, like right now. It's like we're in a flow. We're just talking.
Sure.
So it's like we talk about everything, but Alex is studying philosophy. I've read a lot of psychology and stuff like that. So it's like a mixture of things.
Yeah. I can definitely see how the three of you guys really mold together.
Yeah.
You really can, and I can see it a lot of times when you guys put up your stuff on Facebook. Because I follow you too on Facebook. I don't know if we're friends yet, but
I'm not. I'm not on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
That's what it was. Instagram. Yeah. You can see the gelling, how you guys interact. You know what I mean? And I think that's huge because, again, go back to that circle, right?
Yeah.
That's just you can't really say that enough about how that circle helps you out.
Yeah, and if you're going to spend as much time as you guys do together, a couple hours a day, several days a week, plus, going away for fights and whatnot. I mean, if you can't, mesh like that, it's not going to work out very well. Even if you're a fantastic coach, eventually you'll be like, listen, you're great, but I just can't deal with you for this much time.
Right. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
A lot of like really high level fighters and their coaching teams were like small. And like the mega team thing is kind of like an MMA like phenomenon where it's like now you're getting these huge MMA gyms where it's like the answer will be, go to American Top Team or go to Jackson's or go see Faraz Zahabi. And it's like those are all great gyms, but that's still almost like I'll call it like scratch ticket mentality. Like you're looking for the one answer when like the answer to your problems is probably multiple answers.
Sure,
it's more like you're gonna have to find an answer and then find another one instead of like you're always looking for the one thing that's gonna pay off. But like these coaches, like they developed relationships like Mike Tyson, you know what I mean? Him and his coaching team, it was 3 guys and they traveled together. They ate together. Like, Cuss adopted Mike Tyson. A lot of boxing, like in a lot of boxing, you see a lot of families, like you see a lot of dads that are coaches or you see, you know what I mean? A lot of people that are related, or the teams are like small and they're like a family anyway, even in MMA, like Trevor Whitman has like 4 fighters or 3 fighters, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's it. Like he had a big gym and he's like, he wants to personalize it. Like he couldn't coach the way he wanted to with 40 guys, you know? So like definitely having a relationship, like it's building your circle to like, you know, you're in cultivating your environment to get to where you want to go, to accomplish the things you want to do,
Yeah.
you know?
I guess over my years, I've really kind of shrunk my circle, even though I'm really happy to see a lot of people. I'm a people person, but the people who I really kind of let in my inner circle is kind of small. You know what I mean? Because I don't want that outside influence, that outside negativity to come in, you know, and I see, you know, I've had a lot of things happen. We talked a little bit about it today. I lost my father-in-law yesterday. Work's been tough. We've had to really make some adjustments in my house here. You know, my wife's disabled. But you have to have that warrior mentality. And I don't care really what you're doing. Like, it could really transcend to all sorts of stuff. But you really have to say, you know what? This is what I'm going to, this is the card that was dealt to me. I can do one of two things right now. I can either shut down and it's still going to be there at the end of the day, or I can take it on head on and really do something about it. You know what I mean? So as hard it was, like losing my, because I just lost my father a couple of years ago. Now we lost my father-in-law, and it's the same thing though. You know what I mean? Like you have to drive forward because we know that's what they would want for us. But it's still the uphill. Like, so when you lost that fight, it was on TV.
Yeah.
You got to have a real strong, like, psyche and that inner warrior to say, you know what? A lot of people saw that, but you know what? I learned a lot from that. And now look what happened.
Right.
Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? So, you know, I really appreciate that about you guys, and that you guys can really recoup and say, okay, let's get down to business and figure it out. And then, you know, you automatic results.
Yeah. Well,
It's awesome.
We treat a lot of it like, we'll say it a lot like data, like whether we win
Sure.
or whether we win or lose. Because one thing like a lot of like high level sports teams do, like whether they win or they lose, they're going to study their tape of what they did.
Right.
And a lot of people like have the win or learn mentality where it's like, oh, I lost, now I need to learn, but they'll just maintain if they're winning. You know, like even Evander Holyfield said, like, I'm the champ now. It's easier. I just have to maintain. Everybody has to work to get up to me.
Sure.
But that's when somebody catches up to you, you know? So it's like we'll say we're collecting data, whether it's a win or a loss or, you know, he gets injured because he was kicking. Like, that's all data for us to break down and then, you know, figure out where to go from there.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
if you won, it wasn't perfect.
No,
You know,
absolutely
you know,
not.
or you might even learn something more about your opponent for the next time, or
Yeah,
you know,
right.
even just to help you improve towards another opponent that fights similar.
Right.
Like I can totally see that. And just to your point, yeah, you start resting on your laurels. Well, you know, the Roman Empire was a good example of that.
Yeah, 100%.
But
Yeah.
you know, just like hey, you know, we're big, we're badass, and you know, if you don't continue to improve, you know, in any aspect and find ways to improve, well, then you know you're only number one or for so long.
It's true. You know, let's bring up the book real quick. Brett brought a book. I can't even talk today.
It's the non-alcoholic beer.
You know, it's my coffee. It's that peppermint mocha, man. It gets me every time. So he got a book from Gary V.
Gary V, yeah. So yeah, I'm not sponsored by Gary V in any aspect or any way. No, just I think he's an interesting personality. And he what I say, he's motivated me into a lot of different, you know, mindsets around business and entrepreneurship, because I am a small business owner. And just, you know, a lot of positivity, like, you know, kind of not necessarily warrior mentality coming from him, but, you know, definitely the, you know, to persevere and just have that positive mindset and, you know, filter through the negativity and stuff like that. But either way, he ran a promotion where if you buy a dozen books, you get a non-fungible token. If you're into, you know, cryptocurrencies or anything like that, or anything, you know, blockchain related, which I am. So, I bought a few dozen books, and I decided that, you know, I'll share them with people who are interested in, you know, just learning different things. So these are my first 3 that I've given away. And, you know, I hope even if what I did doesn't turn into be a good financial decision, it was a good, you know, personal decision. So
Sure. I'm looking at the back of the book right now, and it says gratitude, self-awareness, accountability, optimism, empathy, kindness, tenacity, curiosity, patience, conviction, humility, ambition, and a kind candor.
The 13 ingredients necessary for business success.
It's huge, right?
Or the 13 emotional ingredients, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to read this. I'll probably have that in a couple of days because I love reading that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I haven't read it, but some of the reviews I read, it's written in a very different way, and I don't know how to explain it right now. You'll probably see it as soon as you open it. But it's not just like your standard format where it's like, paragraphs on pages type thing.
Yeah. If it has pictures, I'm all in.
I don't know if it might even, I don't know about pictures, but I know it's not a pop-up book for sure.
No.
No,
I was
like-
kind of hoping. Yeah.
So it's funny that we're talking about this. So I have a very unhealthy relationship with money, and not that I spend any money. Like I'm not a gambler. I don't do that kind of stuff. But when we were kids, we really didn't have anything, and I was always afraid because my parents got divorced very early. We lost our house, lost a bunch of things. So I developed this, like, I have to be at a certain level with money. I have to have a certain level of money in the bank in order for me to feel comfortable. And I think over time, it's really been not good for me because I denied myself. And I was talking about somebody today, and she used the word denied. She goes, you have denied yourself certain things in life, like vacations, right? So the last time I went on a vacation was when Chris Bordeaux got married. That's like 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. That's the last time that I physically have went outside to go on a vacation. How pathetic is that? And one of the reasons is I don't want to spend the money because I'm always the mentality, if I go out and I spend that money, something bad's going to happen to the house and I'm not going to be able to afford that. And then what kind of husband or father am I going to be? It doesn't make any sense, right? And it's very unhealthy.
Well, I mean, but you got to find that's the balance, I mean, I'm the same way in one aspect, but I try to go on as many vacations as possible. I'm like ultra cheap, in a ton of different ways. Like I still haven't put my furnace on in my house. Like I'm heating my house with a wood stove right now.
Yeah, I got
so
the pellet
like,
stove.
Yeah, it's like 20 degrees. So like I'm stoking the fire all day because I'm like, I'm not turning my furnace on. Like that's frivolous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's stuff like that where like, now like I look at my gas bill and I'm like, all right, so on the way here, I actually booked a cruise for February because like I want to go on vacation as soon as I can.
Damn you. I can't do it. I don't know what it is. Like I just, it drives me mental. And it's really unhealthy. It's really getting to a point, I think the older I get, like I probably should go talk to somebody about it.
But you can't step away from work either. You suck at doing that.
See, that's another problem. I can't take any time off. And every single year my boss tells me, this is the one major thing you need to work on. Like you suck at taking time off. She never says you suck, but I say I suck.
It's not good for you.
And it's not good for me. But I always feel like if I take a day off, like and somebody needs me at work, and they'll be fine till I come back the next week. Because they're okay when they go away and I don't see them for a week. Right. You know what I mean? So I'm working on that now. But I bought a book, just came in yesterday, and it's about relinquishing my fear over money, right? Because over the years, we've, like everybody else, you have your good times and your bad, but I've always had enough, sometimes just squeaking by, but I've always had enough to take care of whatever that problem was. And I think the turning point was for me, we started camping last year, and my best friend's like, you got to get a camper. You got to come to our campsite. I'm like, I don't want to spend the money. But if I look back at all the frivolous things that I bought, because I can be kind of impulsive, like Amazon's my best friend, and but I was denying myself, and more importantly, I was denying my wife and my kids a chance to be somewhere where we could have some fun, because I see all the other families having fun, and then you got into camping too, almost at the same time. And so luck would have it, unluck would have it, my wife's uncle passed away, and we were able to buy the camper. Well, we got it up here, and I spent a couple $1,000s to get it up here, but the floor was all rotted out, and we didn't know that until we tried to get it fixed. So it's always like one of those things where you're like, okay, I got this thing. Now it's taken away so fast within weeks. So I went down to place in Hatfield, and we got a new camper. The payments were great, but then we only had 2 months to camp because I procrastinated for so long. You know what I mean? But we had so much fun. Like, I think my relationship with my wife got that much better. We had some place to go. I was able to start detuning from work a little bit better. And so, you know, now that it's been in storage, I've been obsessing about next year because we have a campsite for the whole year. It's not a seasonal yet, but I get to pull it in there once, and I don't have to touch it again until the end of the year. And, you know, moving a camper can be really of a pain in the ass because we camp with a lot of stuff. Like, you ever saw our campsite, which we'll invite you this year? You think we're living there. You know what I mean? We're only there.
You got all the lawn decorations and all that stuff. Oh yeah, my brother has that too.
It's terrible, man. I blame the wife, but anyways, you know, so I let myself go a little bit. Like, I let myself spend the money, you know, and I had a luxury car. I just let that go. I'm back down to a base model car as I'm starting to let go of the stuff that, you know, because when I started reading some of the book, it says in the beginning, what makes you happy about money? Like, you know, so if it's saving money, you feel happy about that. But what else is a side effect of money that also makes you happy? And, you know, like, is my car really making me that happy? Because the $700 car payment sucks. You know what I mean? And Brett will tell you, Brett has a philosophy on cars that he scolded me when he found out that I was paying that much.
Never buy one that's less than 7 years old.
Yeah. So I got rid of that. I got rid of some other stuff. And I'm going to tell you something, man. I just paid my bills this morning. And I'm like, I can do this, man. I can survive off less. I don't need the fancy car. I don't need all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And, you know, just reading the back of that, just, you know, it's not really about MMA, but it kind of is because, you know, all these different things that I'm reading on the back is a lot of things that, you know, you guys possess. And, you know, like, your money will come,
right,
you know, as you get up there, but you're putting all the hard work in now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's an investment now.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. Like I'll say we're not playing scratch tickets. Like, we're investing.
Sure.
You know? And I mean, all the list on the back, like, that's basically like anything you need to do anything. Like,
right.
That's not just business or martial arts or whatever it is. Like, that's basically
that's
like
life.
Yeah. That's a pretty good track.
But I think a lot of people don't have half of those. You know, like,
No.
like, how many managers have you ever worked for that don't possess, you know, maybe 2 of those things?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you can see, like, and I'll tell you, in my past, if I had a really good mentor, that really took me to a whole new level. And then I can think back to all the managers that I ever worked for that weren't good, and how, you know, that I went the other way. You know, so I think it's really important. And I can totally, you know, especially me and Brett, we can totally relate to being coaches. You know, what your role plays in, and then what your role plays in after that. You know what I mean? So, I would definitely make the move too with the right crew.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's you know, since I started, I was like, when I graduated college, I wasn't sure. Like, I knew I just had a few amateur fights. I think I had like 2, 3, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, because I was graduating, so I was like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go and be a cop now? Like, I really don't want to do that. It wasn't really what I was interested in doing. And I had like an anxiety attack, like a big anxiety attack. I was like, oh fuck, I don't know. Like, I called my mom. I was like, I'm freaking out right now. Like, I was like panicking. She's
By the
like,
way, I met your parents.
Did you?
At
At the fight?
Yeah.
And
So I know your dad.
do you?
I don't know where I know him from.
He owns Chilson Shops in East Hampton, the awning company, awnings and shades, maybe. I don't know.
So
He knows everybody.
I know that I've seen him a lot at the Cumbies in Southampton.
Yep, they'd probably definitely see him.
Right?
there.
That's where I know him from.
Probably, yeah. You probably see. He probably say hi to you, talk to you, like.
So like when I first saw him, that's the first image that it came to my mind when I worked for the beverage company. I was in that store every week.
Okay.
Fridays maybe. Yeah, I've been on Fridays. It's been a number of years, but I instantly I didn't even know that it was your dad at first. So I was sitting here, your father and your mom was sitting on the right, and I turned to look and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. And then Gina was like, hey, that's his mom and dad. And I'm like, I know his dad from somewhere. I just can't picture where I know him. And then this Cumberland Farms comes into my head all the time.
Yep.
So, and then he came over, introduced himself. and because your wife came out and stuff, and nice people, super nice
they're
people.
super nice people. They hate fighting.
Oh, that's what your mom. So your mom was physically like ready just to lose it for a minute. And then so I was standing right next to her, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank God it's done." And I go, "Mom, what is that for you? To feel that way?" And she's like, "It tears me up every time, but I'm so proud of him." She was too. You could see she was so proud of him.
I can't imagine how many parents are excited about the actual fighting, like being excited for you, and with you. But like, I don't think as a parent, like, I don't like my kids did gymnastics, competitively, and like just even seeing them fly through the air, there's a lot of risk,
right?
Never mind like someone else trying to, cause that harm to you,
right? It's after the September fight, we were walking out towards like the exit, and my dad and my mom came around, and my dad goes, "What a stupid sport." Gave me a hug. He's like, told me he loves me.
That's exactly what I would do.
He's been wanting me to stop this for a long time. He's like, I'll pay for golf lessons. If you want, I'll do it. I just don't want you doing this shit anymore. And it's like, I know that. Like my mom understands. Like she was a huge supporter of me wrestling. Yep. She was like the reason why I went back after I got cut my like 8th grade year. I didn't want to go back for my freshman year. She was like, go back and do it. And I was like, I really don't want to. She really wanted me to wrestle in college. She was like all about it. She's like, you're so good. You need to wrestle. Like, and I was like, I really don't want to wrestle. I did it anyway. Got her. It wasn't about it. But like, there's no denying that martial arts has like changed my life. Like even like when I was wrestling, it changed my life. It gave me confidence. It made me like much wiser and learned a lot about myself. But like since training martial arts, like I do feel like I'm like 10 times the person that I was. And it's like all the things I've learned, like a lot of this stuff like you learn from fighting. You learn not even from fighting but from training and being surrounded by like good people all the time, because like no matter like what issues I've ever had with other gyms in the past, like you still meet a ton of good people, and like none of the people that I've met or trained with, been coached by, are bad people. None of them. They're all good people to their core. It's just different. Again, it's different philosophies, different like ways that they approach things. And
sure, you
eventually find, like you said, like as you get older, you start to find people that like really mesh well with you and the way that you see the world. And that's important, because you want to, I think too many people, like we talk about authenticity all the time, and that's always been like my strength coach, who's also my mental coach. He just moved to Miami, but like he's always telling me, like anytime, like especially like if I go out and I drink and I'm an idiot and I get all depressed about it, he's like, hey, like he's like, go back to your values. Like, does this align with your values? Is what you're choosing to do, is this aligning with who you want to be? Know? And so when I look at that, and I remember like being authentic, and like that was one thing I felt like I had a difficult time before I met him, was being who I really was. Like I get like I had a tendency to be shy and timid, and like like even with all the skills I learned, like I know I could fuck you up if I had to. Not you, but like general people.
You looked at me when you said that.
I was just just staring you in the eyes.
I almost went like this.
but like knowing that you are capable of, like, without weapons, like that you're capable of like handling yourself if the situation, because that used to be a huge anxiety for me, especially in college. Like when I was like a freshman and a sophomore in college, before I got into mixed martial arts, I was like scared of everything. I would get like really anxious all the time. Like I'd be like, people are staring at me, like, man, like big guys would walk around me like, oh fuck, he might fuck me up, Now it's like whatever. Like I walk past a guy on the street, I'm like whatever. But like when I go into new environments, it was difficult for me to like show people like who I am. I would always like kind of almost put the mask on. So I know what that feels like, because I'd be like, oh, super respectful, I'm a super nice guy, like, like I don't want to upset you ever, I get like anxiety, I don't want to upset this person, like say something offensive, like especially today. But when I started training with him, it was like I've started to develop like just being who I really am. I don't have to worry about like stepping on people's toes, and like I can really be who I am and like be okay with that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, because I think too many people are like, every new environment you enter, you're like, you meet new people and you want them to like you, so you don't want to like offend them or upset them or like be, weird. But now it's like, fuck that, like I'm here for, I'm only on this earth for a short period of time. And this kind of goes back into what we were talking about my parents, and they understand this, is like life is short. Like I'm not here to fucking, go to do something that I hate every single day, be surrounded by people that I don't like every single day. Like I want to be around people that I enjoy. Like I want to experience life. I want to travel. I want to fight. I want to do things that like exhilarate me, because I want to have that feeling of being alive, because I know what it's like to feel like you're just existing and it feels like you're rotting inside. Like I still have that, like when I wasn't fighting, you know, during COVID. It was like, fuck, like, is this a good idea? Should I keep doing this? Like all this time I put in, like nothing to show for it. Like I've had that, like, you know, I still don't really I don't make great money, but like I'm happy. You know, I generally am happy. Like I have great people around me. Like how can I complain? You know, I do what I love every single day. And so I just think it's important that you like really like think about who you are and what you really, really want. And like, regardless of like what everyone around you says, like as long as it's within your circle, you know, that's not within your circle, like the outer ring, you know, the people that like you don't see them on a regular basis. They don't really play that much role. Like try and find those people that like in the inner circle, and don't worry about like what other people are going to think of you for like what you do, how you act, what you say. Like obviously you don't want to be a dick to people. Like I'm not condoning being an asshole.
Sure.
But I am condoning being who you are and enjoying the things that you like to do and experiencing the life the way you want to see it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, it's your story. You know, I've heard this, multiple people have said it, you know, it's your story. You write your book, you know, like write how you want it to be written. Not because, you know, like it's very easy to have someone else write your story for you. It's easy to just walk in, like we're talking about, like the regimented, you know, the structure. It's like, just do this. And now you've done that for 30 fucking years. And now you're just another, you know, you're just like that other person.
Yeah.
Like what's your story? What do you have to say? Like, what do you want to do? And so I think it's important you be authentic and you find people who allow you to be who you are. Be okay. If you're weird, be weird. You know, like, you know, don't be creepy, but you know, be weird, be different.
Yeah,
like,
there's
it's
a
okay.
line. There's
a line.
There is a line, yeah.
You definitely want to, you know, manage that. But again, if you find the right people, they'll keep you in check.
Right.
They're not going to tell you who to be. They're going to tell you like, hey man, like
That was a little creepy.
That was a little creepy.
That was a little creepy.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe you're
Getting
going out.
bad weird.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
cool weird.
Yeah.
That was like free candy van weird.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you find the right people, they'll it's like a kite, you know, like I said about my wife in one of my Instagram posts. It's like she's like the string to my kite, like, because I'm like, I want to go out and do all these things, but she's like, you know, reel it back in a little bit. Sometimes the wind gets a little crazy up there, you know. Remember, you know, make sure you're hanging around with the right people, smart people that aren't gonna fucking take advantage of you. You know, they don't care about your what you do, what happens to you in the end. You find good people, and I think that's truly like a key to like success. And like we've since changing gyms and starting our own thing and surrounding myself with different people, like I felt nothing but like myself finally. Yeah. And it's fucking incredible. Yeah. It really is. Like I feel fucking awesome. Like it's every time I get together with these guys, I'm like, I'm fucking pumped. Like he said, like you have a bad day at work or you have other shit going on, but when you're in the fucking gym, you're like, let's fucking go. You know, let's fucking do it. You know, like we're at the fights and it's like I'm stressing and about this recent one too. Like happened in all of them, happens in fights, you know, but when I'm surrounded by them, it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like I get these little things of anxiety. We start talking about whatever, like training technique, like throughout the hotel, like before my last fight, I'm like pacing back and forth. This guy's like, he's like, oh yeah, but we could just do this and work this. And like, we're talking and it's like, boom, gone. Yeah. You know, boom, gone. We're just, you know, same thing with Bellator. Like I should have been way more nervous about that fight than I was. Yeah. You know, like, of course you get nervous here and there, but like hanging out with them, it was like, that was like when I realized, I was like, fuck, like this is fun. Like this is awesome. Like fighting's fun again. Like before the Cody Law fight, like when I fought my first pro fight, or I would say before the Cody Law fight, dating back to like when I first started fighting, I did not have a lot of fun doing it. Like I loved the training. I loved, you know, showing up and being in the gym. In the fight, it was like, I didn't know what to do. I would get anxious. Like luckily I trained hard enough that like my body took over. Sure. But I would say after the Cody Law fight, fighting has been rekindled. Like I love it. You know, I love it. It was fucking fun. These like last 3 fights have been a fucking blast. You know, I really
you can see your face when you get into the ring. Like it's like it's go time. Yeah, yeah. You know, and like I said, being laser focused. You can see some of the guys that get in there and their eyes are going all over the place. They're doing weird body movements. I mean, I guarantee your opponent's picking up on that right away. 100%. And you went in there and you just gave that guy a look like, you're gonna work today. Yeah, that's what it is, you know, that's really what it is. And like, again, I think the approach, it matters, like the way that he's like structured drilling and the way that he's been able to explain things to me and teach me how to fight, how to teach me how to put myself in a good position that, what do I, like all the anxieties, I haven't had them. Like in the fight, it's like a lot of my previous fights, I was thinking all the time, like, what do I do? Where do I go? I have all these weapons. It's like, this guy's giving me the application. So it's like, I know, like when I get in there, I'm like, it's go time. Like, I don't give a fuck what you do. I know what I need to do. Like, I don't care what you're going to do to me.
You have to worry about what I'm going to do to you,
Right,
and
yeah.
truly believe it when I say it, and not have to pretend anymore. It's like, oh, I'm fucking ready, you know.
Yeah.
And like I'm already pumped to get. Like I'm telling him, like I can't wait to fucking get back in there because it's like it's just been it's been a blast, you know. And I can't wait to like we're gonna keep getting better, keep showing up, keep working hard, and I can't wait to like I want to get to the big show. And like I said, we talk about all the time. We're not going to the big show to be like, hey, we were in the UFC. Like, no, we're going to fucking beat your ass. We're going in there to beat the best guys in the world. We don't give a fuck what you do or what your name is. You know, fuck all those accolades. Like, we don't care. Like that, and it's our time now. Like, we put our times in. We've been investing, like you said. We haven't been making money doing this shit. Like here, you know, some money here and there, but not, you know, like some of these other guys. They're like they're getting sponsored by people like the guy that I just fought. Like again, great guy. But he's getting all kinds of nice sponsorships. He's in Vegas right now at the PI with Rob Font and all those guys. You know, he's doing that shit. Like, we don't have any UFC. We don't train with UFC fighters. We don't train with any fucking top level fucking guys. Like, I mean, I have, you know, I train with like Nick Newell and guys at FAA here and there that were, you know, and some of these other guys at different gyms that I train at. But for the most part, day in and day out, I'm not training with UFC fighters. I'm not training with Bellator fighters. I'm not training with any pro fighters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So fuck you. Like I didn't like nothing's been given to me in this sport, and that's what I wanted. That's what I asked for. I didn't come into the sport so that I could be given everything. Like, I'm fortunate. I've had a very good life. Like my parents have been very good to me. But I knew when I chose this path, I knew that there's nothing they could fucking do for me that was gonna. They couldn't give me it. They can't give me any of this.
Right.
You can't. You know what I'm saying?
You
like,
walk in that ring, you're going to earn.
I have to earn
absolutely.
everything.
Yeah.
So that's why we show up. That's why you train. That's why I'm in the gym as much as I can be, because I know if I want it, I have to earn it. Because I felt what I've been in fights I've lost, I should have won because I didn't train hard enough. Because I thought, oh, like it'll just happen. It doesn't.
Right.
You have to fucking earn it. You have to go out there and your work. You have to get better every single day. Like you said, if you get to a point you just maintain, someone's going to catch up or someone's doing something better than you. So that's my spiel. You know what I mean? It got fucking fired up. Sorry.
I love it, man. Let it go. Let it go.
But like that's the thing, man. Like it's important to be around, you know, good people that keep you, you know, like keep you in a. They want to go in the same direction, keep you grounded, and you know, like keep learning, keep getting better. Because it's just like there's so much to learn, but it's like you find that stuff that you love to do, and it's just like fucking dive headfirst and fucking experience it. Like wins, losses, like ups, downs, like you're gonna go through it. But that's what makes it so sweet, you know. Like when it's sweet, it's fucking sweet. You know what I mean? And when it's bad, it sucks. But like it's just that work. I just love the fucking work. I love the grind. You know, I love I love showing up and fucking training with this guy. I love showing up training with Alex. I love showing up training with the guys.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, and I think the other guys probably feed right off that too. You know, the more positive, more pumped up you are, you know, that drives them to keep going. You know, I love that. That's like the best. And that energy just keeps hitting.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I you know, I'm blessed. Like my boss at work now, she's phenomenal. My boss before her was phenomenal. It really pumps me to go to work. And even though I'm going through a little hump, I'm actually, I had a very good month, and I exceeded my goals for the month for the first time in a while, because I had some unique circumstances I'll talk to you about off air. But I called my boss this morning. I'm like, oh my God, I slayed my numbers. And she's like, yeah, you did. Like, and you're not done yet. You still have a couple more days. And, but she was behind me, you know, through the whole time saying, you got this. You know, that negativity is going to come. Just push it to the side. It's temporary. Just remember that everything that you've been doing up until then is going to lead to 1 month. It's just going to all come together. And this is the month that came together. So, you know, between you know, people at work that were rooting for me, you know, I have a guy at work that I met a couple of years ago in a thing called Acceleration. So Acceleration is a program where your boss nominates you to go. There's only like 30 people across the whole United States that get picked for this. And then the trainers of the company also vote on you, and then you get in. So here I am sitting in this room, and you can relate to like maybe when you first started, like, what am I doing here?
yeah,
Like, and I'm surrounded by awesome people.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I've only been with the company for like a year and a half. Like, why am I here? Actually, I don't think it was even a year and a half. I started in September, and I think that was in August. So about a year.
Yeah.
And so during breakfast, I saw this big guy, Roger. And he had a friend of me on Facebook just like about 2 weeks before that. This big dude. And he's wearing this big watch, man. And I'm like, and I'm a watch fan. I go, God, I love that watch. So I turned around to him. I said, that's a great watch you got there, man. Then I realized it's Roger. And I don't know him, though. I just, you know, was nice and accepted him on Facebook. Well, he's sitting in front of me at this program. And so they get up, and you have to stand up in front of the group, and you have to talk about yourself and what you've done. And I'm watching him. He's writing notes. Like, what's this guy doing, man? Never seen anybody do that. But it was interesting because he was taking notes from everybody that got up, and he was listening for certain things that he wanted to absorb and then write it down. And a couple things that I've said kind of impacted him. And then he literally turned to me and he's like, you and I are going to be great friends, just let you know right now. And I was like, all right, and it's just that everything we did in that whole, he was always right next to me. And I don't know if because every day that you would walk into the room, they change your place.
Oh yeah.
So you had to sit with different people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I love learning about people. My wife gets mental, right? So we'll go somewhere, and I want to know all about this person I meet. I want to know all about them. It could be classified as creepy, I guess. I don't know, but I'm so interested in where people have come from, what they had challenges, and I'm very fascinated with people who can just move, as I can't do it.
Oh, I met this couple. I went out to Boston like 3 weekends ago. I'm just sitting at a bar and I heard this girl. She ordered a drink, and she had like an interesting accent. So I was like, and I was there with, like, Dan Martineau and Brian Duran, and
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that's an interesting accent. Where are you from? And she was from Kenya. I'm like, oh, so I started talking to her about Kenya. I worked with a couple guys from Kenya, and then like her boyfriend or husband comes over, and I start talking to him, and like they met each other over here, but they're both from Kenya, but then he had to move back, and they were like long distance relationship. Like, I got this whole thing. They're buying me shots by the end of the night. Like they're sharing their dinner with me. And like, I'm like a sponge for, like, I learn from people, like that's like, I get excited about like learning about people. Like you get excited about MMA. Like, everyone has something to offer, and like, how do I get that out of them? Like, how do I, learn from someone else? And I get amped up about that.
You ready?
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Actually, yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna be right after him.
All right, we'll take
we'll
take a break then. I can barely get out of fucking bed in the morning, man. You know what I mean?
I'm too easy going. People, like, even if they're amped up, like, I just talk to them like, why are you so mad? And they kind of just like de-escalate.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go that way, I'm not afraid to like raise my voice, I guess. But for the most part, I'm like, what the fuck? What is that gonna get us? Other than one of us will. At least one of us will get hurt, and we'll probably both get in trouble.
Well, one of the things that I worry about is, any day my modeling career could come back.
It's true.
And I don't want to ruin this.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin that. No.
Got to protect the moneymaker.
It does, yeah. This needs all the help it can get, man. God damn. There's a guy that I want to have on the podcast. His name is Erskine Sloan. Great guy. We used to work with him at Leechmere. He took some modeling pictures of me back in the day, and I'll tell you this. Back in the day, I was physically like...
Was it like glamour shots?
I was chiseled like you wouldn't believe. And I don't know what he ever did with those. But
you probably don't want to know.
I want to see a sign at Nate's next fight.
Yeah.
There's me, Nate. And also Nate gets hit. Oh, he's out. All because of me. So, it's interesting, like, people's line of work. I always find it interesting, like what you guys do before and after, so that's so what do you machine? What's your, you don't have to say the name of the place.
Yeah,
but
no, like, aircraft parts, like submarine parts right now, stuff like that, space station stuff. Like, we do a lot of crazy stuff at the place I'm at now. The place I was at before, we did like, mostly like commercial airline stuff. So like air and fuel line, and then like extra stuff on the plane, like handrails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
and
that's just a job.
You said you were in a band before too?
Yeah.
What band was that?
It was called Revenge.
And you guys like toured quite a bit?
Yeah. We were a band from like 2008 until 2015. We put out like 5 records.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What type of music?
Like hardcore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where are you based out of, or where were you based out of?
Western Mass.
Yeah?
Yeah. Some of the other guys.
Oh,
like
the Western Mass hardcore scene.
Yeah.
Been out of that for about 25 years. Oh, hey, that was when I stopped trying to get in fights, too.
Yep. But yeah, we some of the other guys are still in bands around. Yeah, actually, one of my guitar players is doing like a new wave band.
Yeah.
It's very like New Order, like Depeche Mode kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And then some of them are still in hardcore bands.
You know
Ben
Ben Regal?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Ben's a good friend of mine. Oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of that. But he's still putting out hardcore, like new song every week type stuff. But
yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time. But
yeah,
I know Ben.
Yeah, he's up in Greenfield now, but I talk to him quite often.
I got to get some more tattoos.
Okay, give him a call.
Yeah. I never go past my elbows, and it's like another psychological
Actually, that's
thing.
right. You got your guy Scott, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully he was supposed to come
Yeah.
on the podcast again last Wednesday, but he was sick. Supposed to bring his piercer with him too. I'm sure there's be some good stories to go with that. But tattoos are interesting. So I went years without tattoos, and when my father died, I just went down there because those guys are always like family, no matter what time of day, no matter what year. You just go in and just resume what you were talking about before. And Scott used to be in the beginning part of the. So I go to Mystery Inc. in Indian Orchard, Scott Kaufman, and he used to be at the beginning of the tattoo shop. Well, now his room's all the way in the back. So I walk in the front. I'm like, "Hey, is Scott here?" And he recognized my voice after all these years. Like 10 years went by, I think. And he's like, "Oh my God, is it you?" He goes, "Get back here." And he's like, "All right, what happened?" Like, my dad died. He's like, "All right, what do you got?" Because he knows I do my homework with my tattoos. And I'm like, I got this, but it's just not right. I'm not feeling it. But he's like, "All right," sends me the first one. I go, "Nah, man, that's not it." He goes, "Yeah, that was shitty. I know it was shitty. I'm feeling you out. So we'll look at the next one." I'm like, "Yeah, it's almost there." And he goes, "All right, I got it. Next one, I'm gonna nail it." Sure enough, sends it to me. I'm like, "Dude, this is it." And it was totally different than what I originally wanted. But because he was asking discovery questions and stuff like that, we got to that point where I looked at it and I'm just like, "Oh my God, this is everything." So I want to get the rest of my arms done. Again, just getting through that phase of like, what are people going to think? Not being myself, right?
Yeah.
So eventually I'll do it. And I still have some room on my back, just a little bit to clean up. And then we'll move on. But I see other people's ink, and that's what motivates me. I'm like, I got to make the appointment, man. Because my daughter is now taking over almost the amount of tattoos that I have. And I never thought I'd say that.
You got to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers. So what are some of the tattoos that you have?
I have this whole tribal thing. I got a window shade for my grandfather.
Yep.
So he passed away. So he was working until he was so he died at 94, but he was 92. And in 2013, we were working together, and we had to do these giant shades together. And that was the first, I was not as close with my grandparents, but I'd go and see them.
Yep.
So he died in 2016, and I decided to get a window shade for him because when I started to think about it that time, he was the one that really taught me I guess he just articulated it well. He got mad at me. We were doing these giant shades that you couldn't do, they would do them through the machine, so we had to do them hand, and there was 90 of them. So we did 90 hand shades, and he's 92, and I'm fucking 19.
Yeah.
So we're working together and doing it, and there was I was cutting the slats on the ends short because it was quicker, so I was I'll just cut these slats, and he's going through, he's what the hell is this? He's what are you doing? He's you can't cut them, because he's he's been doing this for fucking ever,
So he's
and he's he wants it precise, he wants it perfect. And I'm it's quicker. We have all these shades we need to get done by, X, whatever date. And he's no, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. He's go back and recut all of these. He's and I had probably done 15 to 20 of them like that. And I was fuck. But I was pissed. We got in a fight about it. But
wow.
Looking back, after he passed and thinking about his life, and again, I'd go and visit him, and I talk with him a little bit, and to get the things that he went through in his life. He had 7 brothers. He was one of 7, and he was the second oldest or third oldest. I'm sorry.
Wow.
And he fought in World War II. He was stationed in Germany. He was stationed in Germany, and he was a medic. He was alive for a lot of big things. He 2 of his sisters died. So he's experienced a lot of things in life. And the more I thought about it, is so what it says is it's starting to fade. It's starting to the letters are written too small, but it says to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist. And so I got a window shade for him because and it says 20. His date is 1921 to 2016. And
Yep.
then when my grandmother died 2 years later, I got the pie. She used to make pies. So she's a baker. She used to do a lot of baking and stuff. So I got the pie tattooed on the windowsill, and then the window shade for him, and all
Awesome.
the time together. And then I got a bunch of them, man. But
Yeah.
I got the Kaizen So consistent progression.
Yep.
You know. Got my Jesus piece on, my necklace, and like all these other things, my parents' names, and got a wrestling tattoo on my quad. Got Meant for Greatness on my foot. You know, got a bunch of tattoos all over the place.
Yeah.
So.
What do you got, Dan?
I have a big squid on my arm that's still yet to be finished.
And what does that symbolize?
Nothing. It's a squid.
Because I just love squids.
I don't have like any like real deep tattoos on
Yep.
me. The deepest one I have like a tic-tac-toe on my ankle where no one wins, you know. Yeah, I got this heart with an ice pick through it that says "Punish Me." Like Misfits tattoo,
little Misfits.
Black flag
Yeah.
tattoo, you know. Yeah,
That's it's just your
Latin on my arm.
typical hardcore kid tattoos. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I'd love, we talk about meeting people. I'd love when I see somebody with a tattoo. Like, so I have this crazy tattoo thing. So when I originally got the dragon on my left arm, it was a cover up. And, you know, I started shopping around a little bit. And so one person says, you got to go see this guy. I'm like, all right. So I went to go see him, and his work was awesome. But I didn't get to physically see him yet. And so he comes out of his room, and his head's tattooed. I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh yeah, we talked about
Remember
this
that? Like,
before. Yeah,
yeah, I can't.
that's where,
I can't.
that's where he
do
draws
any,
the line.
I can't do any business with you. And I
Head tattoos.
isn't it weird?
But you were okay with neck tattoo,
Yeah,
right?
I'm okay all the way up until like
The
right here.
jawline.
Yeah, and then after that you lose me.
Yeah,
because I think you're listening. It's probably not even the case, but I think you're a mental case.
he's just being himself.
Exactly. It's just not my circle, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't even know.
Yeah, he automatically got shut down.
Automatically out of the circle.
But he was so cool about it, you know. So I said to him the minute he comes out, I look at his head. I go, he goes, "What do you think about my artwork?" I go, "Awesome, but you can't tattoo me." And it just comes out. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't hold anything back ever, and I try to be as polite as I can be, but I don't like weirdness, so I just get it out there, even though that might be weird for the other person, I guess. But and he looks at me and he goes, "What's the deal?" I go, "Your head." I go, "Why do you do that?" And he goes, "Are you shitting me? You're gonna give me shit for a tattoo on my head when you're here to I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
And did I ask you before? What if Scott tattooed his head?
I told him he would never do it again. I would never see him again.
This is like your guy. And
Yeah.
you're like, I'm sorry.
Yep. And but he was really cool about it. He says, "You know what? I gotta tell you something. You didn't offend me." I'm like, "Well, I wanted you to make sure like was never my intention to offend you." I said, "But until right now, like I think I already had it in the back of my head, like that was bothering me. But then when I actually physically saw him, I'm like, yeah, it's true. I can't have anybody."
Oh, I should have had Joe when he was here last week show you his tattoo. He's got 6-pack abs tattooed on.
Oh, does he really?
He's a big guy, big gut, and he's got a 6-pack
Oh, that's hilarious.
tattooed on. Oh yeah, it's impressive.
For next time, we're gonna get our heads tattooed, but we'll come in with wigs.
There you go.
We'll do the
There you
whole
go. So,
podcast.
well, here's
At the end, we'll be like, "Ha!"
So here's the thing. I'm okay if you guys get them, but I don't want someone tattooing me that has them. You know what I mean? There is a bounce. And so he was like, "All right, I get it." Like he was totally cool about it. And I'm like, you know, maybe I'll come back and I'll have something else done one of these days, but but probably not. And so he was totally chill about it. And then I went back to work the next day, and I was telling one of the girls at work what happened, and she's like, "Listen," and I really listened to her. She didn't like guys to begin with, and she's like, "If you go to this guy, I'm telling you right now, you'll never go to anybody else." I'm like, "All right, bet." Called him up, made the appointment, went down, and his sleeves you couldn't see any tattoos at all on him. So I didn't even know he had tattoos, but I figured he's a tattoo artist, so he probably had. And so made my appointment, and next thing you know, he starts talking about he flies planes. He was telling me about how he broke down his boiler, literally stripped this thing down to nothing.
Oh yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, and then built it by memory back. He's like, I didn't have a schematic or anything like that. He goes, I just remembered this bolt went here, and
Yeah, and he like disassembled this old plane, and like rebuilt it. Now he flies it. Like just figured it out. Like,
yeah, yep. And so I said, this is the guy I want. You know what I mean? But I told him, and you heard it. I said, if you ever tattoo your head, we're done.
this relationship's over.
There's not many things I hold people accountable for. Tattooing your head. If you're gonna tattoo me, that's when I think you went off the deep end. You know what I mean? So, and it's a weird
tattoo
thing.
your face on their head.
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, man.
That's a guy you probably want to do business with.
That's gonna keep me up tonight thinking
yeah,
about
well,
that.
He just doesn't go to bed tonight. He's just like,
Do you
all
want
caffeine.
to? But do you want to do business with the guy who puts the tattoo on his head or the guy who does the tattoo? Well, it depends how good it comes out.
Yeah,
right?
it's- yeah, that's
you
true.
have two guys tattoo each other's heads,
That's how it has
and
to
you
work.
picked a better one.
But even tattoos are pretty funny. Like I remember the first day I showed up to my wife's parents' house. I just got out of the gym. I was wearing a wife beater, tattoos all out, and my father-in-law looks at me. And I remember he looks like, so I came from this side of him, very respectful. Hey, Mr. Januszewski, and turns and he looks me up and down. And he starts laughing, and he's like, "Have a seat." So I sit down. He pulls out a 32, right? So her last boyfriend was not a very healthy relationship. So I knew what he was doing, and I was okay with that. So I sit down with him, and he's like, realize the last relationship she was in was not good. I'm like, I know. I watched some of the stuff that he did. Because he would drop her off at the store, screaming at her. Then he'd take her car. I don't think he really worked, And he pulls out his gun. I'm like, oh, here we go. And I say, the only thing I can say is that, I'm not like that guy. And we bonded right from that day. You know what I mean? And here I am, full of tattoos. I didn't have a bald head back there. I actually had a very stunning. It wasn't a toupee. It was for real.
And a luscious hair of locks.
I was very strapping back then, and it's just weird. And yesterday we lose him. It's just kind of sucks. But that was one of my best memories of him. Right off the rip, and so he's such a funny guy. So his neighbor was his brother-in-law. And my father-in-law had this tree in his yard that literally was at this angle, big, huge tree. And they used to always make a bet when that tree was coming down. And neither one of them were winning. Well, Lloyd passes away. Next thing you know, my father's out there with a chainsaw, ripping the tree down. So I go, what are you knocking the tree down for? He's like, Lloyd's up there now. He's going to make this tree fall. I'm going to lose the bet. And he went out there and cut the tree down. I mean, that's the kind of funny shit that, I like. And so they used to have gardens, right? And they used to go over there to steal stuff out of their garden. He'd come over and steal stuff in the middle of the night. Funny stuff. Like my neighbor here, I used to do stuff to him all the time. He used to have Christmas lights and decorations out there. So me and my kid used to go out there and steal them and then put them like 4 or 5 houses down, right? Well, so then he put a spotlight up. He just want to catch us doing it. So I had to start messing with my neighbor 2 houses down. His name was Scott, good dude. And so one day, me and my kid were low crawling on the sidewalk because there's like a little wall, and we're just under the thing because he's out there every once in a while looking out the window. So we're like, we're gonna get him. He was on to me because he knew it was like any day now I was coming after these things. And sure enough, we low crawled all the way to the house, unhooked the thing, passed it back to my kid. He starts crawling with this thing on one side of him. We finally get it, out of the side of the house, put it on the house like 5 houses down, and then he would go out the next morning to go to work. God damn it! Having to go find his stuff. And that neighbor was those. I only have 7 neighbors, but they were pretty cool. They knew what we were up against. Every year, shenanigans were going to start. So like he has a deer, fake deer in his yard, and I remember the first day he got it. I says to my wife, "Oh my God, there's a deer in the yard over there." So she looks out the window and she's like, "It's not moving," like because it's fake. And she's like, "Oh my God, it looks so real." It must have been like a target practice deer at one time, but he decorates it and stuff like that. So it's pretty funny. Shenanigans, I could do them all day.
My neighbors are boring. We don't have any of that. I'd love to play pranks with my neighbors.
You just got to start it. That's what it is.
Do they know that it's a game, or are you just doing it and they're still trying to figure out who it is?
Yeah,
because at that point you're kind of just an asshole.
It's just kind of theft.
Well, you have to get caught in order to be charged. You know what I mean?
No, it was a prank. No, they kind of got to be in on it. They got to know.
They don't have to be in it until afterwards.
Like, wait, you go into a convenience store, like walk out with an armful of soda. I'm like, no, this is a prank. This is a joke.
This is a joke. Did you see how many people are doing smash and grabs now?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It is insane, man. This world's going crazy.
What do you mean?
Like people just like smashing windows, going in, grabbing like designer stuff out of windows.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Really?
Or
Around
just
here
running in
or
like
a lot of big cities.
Yeah, big
shit.
cities. Like not even like smashing windows, but just a mob of people. Say 10 people go in, overwhelm and just grab stuff. And we had it happen. When I ran Sports Authority. There was organized crime rings that they would follow like all up and down the coast, and they'd run in. They just take full racks. Like we started chaining stuff to racks, and they just grab the racks.
Yeah,
and you just zip up because they're in and out. They'll scope it plenty of times, and then they'll just they orchestrate it, and they'll get in. They'll have some truck pull up. They always have their their exits all mapped. Like it's like a not amateur stuff, and that's what's happening out there. Is like these rings are hitting it, and it's crazy.
Yeah, like so the latest one where they hit the Louis Vuitton store. I don't know how many people, like 30 people. They physically shut the streets down with their cars.
Oh shit! Really?
and then did this thing and then got into the car. So you can see on one of the videos, just you can look up on YouTube, he was driving a Mustang. The cops surrounded him, just blew out his windows to try to get at him. And because they're being aware of these people now, and so like Market 32, I think they call it in Connecticut. It's like a market basket, but it's like a newer age market basket. They're going in now with carriages now, loading them up with laundry detergent and like paper goods, and then loading them into their cars and taking off. And we're talking full carriages, and I don't know what they get for these on the street, but I mean, it's all profit.
Because like thieves, they started to really catch on. Like I saw, being in like retail for so long, and like I was in electronics and then sporting goods and like North Face jackets and stuff. So like those are all that's high theft stuff. But they basically just started realizing that the loss prevention. Well, first of all, most stores don't have a loss prevention anymore. They used to have like full teams of people like
That's what I
watching
used to do.
cameras and like you were trained to stop and apprehend people and everything like that. Retail's got out of that. It's too expensive and there's too much liability. It was easier for them to just let it go, try to prevent it, and just be observant and then try to, deter it. But once it actually happens and it's happening, no employees can do anything. So they just got smarter and smarter, and they're just like, well, no one there's trained to deal with this. And they, no one, and everyone's told just to not, confront anybody. So they're just taking advantage of that. Like, I had guards, for like the holiday season at the Holyoke Mall. And it was just a deterrent. They were just like, rent a cop. They weren't even armed. They were just some dude getting paid $12 an hour to stand in a uniform and a vest, to deter people from coming in and walking out with a ton of stuff,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But, they've taken it to like the next level. And now it's like, these people are, career, it's crazy though.
Yeah. So I have a loss prevention background. That's originally how I kind of semi-quasi got into retail. I was working in the warehouse at Lechmere, but I had a loss prevention background. So once the LP guys realized that the background, every grab, they'd be like, call me to the front or whatever door they were going out of. So, I might be bringing out a fridge to somebody. Next thing you know, I'm running after them. And then I got into the loss prevention department. So then I started working for them and Kmart. So I was in Holyoke, Springfield, Boston, Liberty Plaza. It was all floor work. I had one camera to watch my customer service people or maybe a cashier. I had pinhole cameras that I could put, at certain different places. But for the most part, it was all floor work. And everybody would fight. Everybody would fight. I only had a few that said, okay, I'll go. Because I used to tell them straight up, I'm like, listen, we're going to do some paperwork, cutting you loose. You fight me, you're going to go to jail. In Springfield, they give out the powers of arrest. I didn't have that at the time, but a lot of my teammates did. So, those guys fought all the time because they knew we didn't need the cops. All we called them was to transport them down there. Then those guys who had the powers of arrest would just go next day, do their depositions, and then they were charged. So there was always like these huge fights, man. I can remember one day this guy Lou, best guy I've ever met in my entire life. His nickname was Lukin, big dude. And we go out the front door after somebody, and he starts chasing after this guy, big duffel bag full of videos and CDs. He gets down past. You guys remember Lechmere? So he's going Like if you're looking at Leachman to the left, he's going around to the railroad tracks. All of a sudden, I see him stop, which I'd never seen him do. And he grabs it. He's got his arm up like this. So I finally make my way to him, and I see his arm opened up, just like cottage cheese. The guy got him with a razor blade.
Oh.
First time I've ever seen something like that. You know,
Wow.
we've been in some brawls, but
Yeah.
nothing like that. And so they finally end up catching him. But it was crazy. He almost lost control of his thumb. He had
Yeah,
multiple
'cause those things
surgeries,
just-
and
they just slice
Yep.
like deli meat. Yeah.
and if you ever saw Lou, you know he was a big boy, and he won like the bench press contest at Gold's Gym. But this guy could move. Like I used to see this guy run, and it's like a freight train running. And I don't know how I couldn't even move that fast.
Yep.
You know, and I was like half the size of him, probably more than half the size. And but that's back like there's so many crazy things that happen doing loss prevention. It was insane. And nowadays, like you're right, they can't touch.
Yeah. Even the loss prevention guys, most of them aren't. They can't do like the knockdown. You know, they can defend themselves. But like I had one of my guys, like they would just pop in and do like random. They had to hit every store and just kind of do, you know, watch the floor and try to, you know, deter or apprehend people. And this dude he was just trying to corral him. He's like, hey, come, you know, you got to wait until they're about to exit without paying, like get past the cash register, and you kind of, you know, unless they've already concealed it. So there's like rules. And then he just tried like veering him. He's like, can you come over here? I need to talk to you. And the guy's like, no. And this last, I don't know, didn't understand why he was in loss prevention. He was a little squirrely guy, kind of looked like Beavis, and and so like he's trying to herd him, like stay on, you know, doors over here. He's trying to stay on his left hand side and kind of just keep him from exiting. And finally, the dude just kind of came across and just whacked him, and dude went down, and the guy bolted, and like. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I can't go get him. You know, like that's the rules.
Yeah. There was a guy that we used to work with. I don't want to say his name, but he looked like who was the guy from Ghostbusters? The guy who was in the
Rick Moranis.
yes,
That guy?
yeah, he was just like, I swear to God, he looked just like him, right? And he would pick he wasn't a team player one bit. Always left us open. Like you'd see him running behind you. All of a sudden you grab the guy and he's like nowhere to be found. Like, where were you? Oh, I was on my way back to the office to open the door. Come on, dude. Can't do that.
Wanted to make sure the pencils were sharpened for the paperwork.
Yeah. So there's this one guy, his name was Robert, and we've been trying to catch him for a while. He was trying to steal computers. So we purposely made a bulk of fake computers in the computer department. Sure enough, Robert comes in. I know he's a fighter. And he lived in Chicopee. So Rick Moranis goes out there, and I just let him go. And you get the shit kicked out of him. And so Robert left with the box, and he thinks it's a computer. Well, this was back before like I did any banking. Like I used to cash my checks at Falls Liquor Store in Chicopee Falls. So I'm in there cashing my check, and who comes walking in? Robert. I'm like, no way. So he doesn't recognize me. So I walk out to the car. Sure enough, the box is out there. So I come in, I start laughing. So I had locked all his doors, right? And his car was running. So he comes back. I go back in. I go, hey, Robert, can you give me back my computer? And he's like, what are you talking about? You know, because he's a drug addict. I'm like, the computer that's in your back seat. And by the way, I locked your doors. My car's running. He goes out there, and I'm laughing my ass off. So the owner calls the cops. Cops come. It's just a dummy box. We had put some heavy shit in there. So they take him to jail because now they charged him with the, with whatever
like
the
possession of the stolen item or whatever.
Yeah, but they charged him with the full amount of what the computer was. And back then, they were expensive.
Oh, yeah, computer's like $3,000, like the crappiest desktop ever. It was horrible.
So the cop thought it was the funniest thing in the world that I went and locked his doors on him, and his car was running. I'm like, oh, whatever, man. So they actually had to break his window.
Oh man,
to get the box out so they could take it, you know, and stuff like that. And that's back when you could do some really crazy shit. You can't get away with any of that stuff.
Actually,
you know?
I had a manager get fired. A guy I was working in Buckland Hills, Circuit City. Guy runs in, grabs a flat screen TV right off the end cap and just runs out like one of the displays. So manager gets in the car and is like driving. He calls the cops. He's like, this guy stole TV. I'm following him. I'll let you know where he is. He got fired.
Did he really?
Didn't do anything. He just, stayed on the phone and kept, but there was so much liability. What if you got in an accident? You're pursuing somebody, what if something happened at the store? Like all this. And then you go, it's like, as soon as you're a liability, now it's, yeah. I'm not, you know, I don't condone it, but I'm not surprised that, like, you know, the thieves got smart, you know, and they realize that and stores are understaffed, you know, rightfully so, because there's no traffic in there. There's no customers, you know, they're just big display boxes now, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank God you guys are moving to California.
Yeah.
That place is imploding, man. So where in Texas do you guys want to go?
We're looking at
Florida?
like Austin, San Antonio, and what is it? Houston. Yeah, that like triangle. There's like a triangle there that my wife's been talking about. But Austin has like a lot of like really good grapplers there. Like all the best grapplers in the world have like moved out there. A lot of people have been moving out there. So, and I heard it's really nice there. So ideally that's where we want to go because like, since, like I said, since I've been working with him, like I feel like a lot of my striking and like clinching and all that stuff is being covered, and I want to get more grappling training partners. So ideally if we train, in my opinion is I got the best striking coach in the world right here. So it's like we just cover what we need to cover with like wrestling and jiu-jitsu because that's what we're going to get there. And, I mean, that's what I feel like no one's going to stop me.
Yeah. So how does it work with you? Like, do you have to call a gym and say, I want to be part of this gym, or do you just go?
We're just going to
Just
go.
go.
Yeah.
We're just going to go for
Go
it.
show up.
Knock on the door and be like, I'm here.
Yeah, that's it.
Love
you know?
it.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. Like,
You can't really demand any special treatment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're not really anybody. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So it's like just go and put the work in.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And you like find a garage and just start like training down there, you know?
We'll be training on our own down there for
Yeah.
sure. So then it's just
Plus
finding a team that
finding another gym, a gym that has some people that you can kind of, you know, practice with and everything.
Yep.
because we could certainly just go and start training at different places and like, you know, we'll see like, well, you know, like they're gonna be like, oh, where are you guys from and stuff like that. And I know I'm good enough to hang with any of these guys. You know, I've trained with some of the best guys in the world, and I've been able to like hang in there with them and even, you know, get the best of them. So, I mean, I feel like, in my opinion, they'd be lucky to have us. You know, and so especially like we're just gonna keep going. Like we'll probably get another couple fights in before the time we leave. Hoping to leave within like a year or so, you know, depending on how finances go. But I mean, by the time we get there, it's like,
hold on one second.
oh, you're good.
Hey, what's going on? You okay? What's the matter? What happened? Yep. Uh-huh. Oh my God. Do you need us for anything? You want to watch the kids or anything? Okay. Oh, I couldn't imagine. You just get there? Yeah, you gotta take care of her. Well, give me just a few minutes. We're just finishing up the podcast. We only got about 10 minutes left to go. And I'm gonna call you right back. Okay. Kenny, his wife's in the emergency room.
Oh shit.
She took some medication and her eye blew up.
Oh.
Ugh.
Yeah, well, you know,
I never answer the phone. But he doesn't ever call this late.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So-
gotta do
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah. We'll edit that out. What time was that? 2:00. Yeah, so I mean, just going down somewhere and then just starting over, that scares the shit out of me.
And you guys are all on the
Really?
same page.
Yeah.
Like this is the you know the goal between the three of you and you know whoever else is in your you know personal circle.
Yeah.
Like your wife obviously on board.
Yeah,
and
she
you know,
wants to get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does she
doesn't
really?
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, she hates it here. She's
So do I.
she's from a Trump. Yeah.
So do I, but
Yeah.
I can't leave. It's
Yeah.
the craziest thing. I want to move somewhere warm. I really do.
Come to Texas.
You know what? Let me tell you something, man. I have thought about it. I have friends that live in Texas. I have a friend that owns a business, like a food business in Texas, and I think he might be from Austin. I'll have to ask him. We met through Xbox, and he shows us pictures of his food he makes every day. So he owns these virtual restaurants. So it's one building that he is, but he owns like 7 different. So that person that's ordering has no idea it's coming from the same restaurant, but he has a sign out there with like 7 different restaurants, and he does all sorts of stuff.
It's like a food court to go, kind of like.
So it's it's one room.
Yeah.
So you walk in, he probably has a couple seats, but he doesn't let them sit. It's always to go. But it's called a virtual restaurant, and a lot of people are starting to do these now. Well, they'll have like 3 or 4 different themes going on.
Yeah.
But behind the same.
Yeah,
behind the same
all coming
counter.
out of the same kitchen, but you can get 3 different kinds of food,
Yeah.
like American, Chinese,
Yeah.
and barbecue or whatever.
Yep.
Wow.
And he's doing really good. Smart guy. He's like, and people have no idea. And he goes, and I like it that way, and I don't have to have anybody in the showroom or in the whatever you call that. Doesn't have to pay a waitress or anything like that.
Yeah.
So he's just cooking, bagging, and out the door. And he started it just before COVID. And then when COVID happened, his business went through the roof because it was, nobody wanted to.
There's so many. I went down to Texas 2 years ago. First of all, Texas is way too freaking big. Like the triangle you talked about, it's like an 8-hour drive between each one of those.
Well, no, the triangle it's like 2, but across
it's
Texas
still,
is a long.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like I'm used to be able, I can get from one end of the state just about anywhere in New England in 2 hours, right? Freaking Texas, like I went down there and I was in Dallas. My kids had a gymnastics tournament down there, and I was like, oh, cool, we'll explore, like this, like, oh, where's Houston? Yeah, nope, not going to Houston. We're only here for like 4 days. And I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go to Austin. Nope, not going to Austin. Like, we went to Fort Worth, which is technically like almost like a suburb of Dallas. It's like an hour away, which was cool. But like, I like to, when I go, I'll explore the whole damn state. No, you want to do that, it's like a month in Texas,
To get so,
and there's so much food. Like, there's strip malls everywhere, and there's some sort of food, every type of food you ever want, and no repeats. Like there's not, like you might see like one chain restaurant, but then like that's covered, and then there's like, so it's like maybe you see McDonald's and then you see about 35 other cheeseburger type places. 5 you might recognize, and 5 are just regional. 4 are mom and pop. It was like you could eat. I think if you're a person who eats out, you could eat out every day probably for 2 years and never go to the same place.
Yeah, I love it.
But people are awesome. Weather is beautiful. It gets a little hot, I think, in the summer. We were down there in February, and it was perfect weather.
I was there in the summer. It was 111 degrees.
Yeah, it seems
111 degrees.
Yeah.
And the humidity, it's not like Nevada. The humidity in Dallas is pretty hardcore.
Well, I think it depends how close to the Gulf you are, I think, right?
Texas,
Yeah.
Yeah, we were driving. We drove straight across Texas. Like we went from Dallas to Lubbock, which is up in like the Panhandle, and like I think we drove like 8 or 9 hours to get there. And we drove like we had to get gas, and we passed a gas station, and it was like last gas station for like 320 miles.
Oh my God!
Can my car even go 320 miles?
Not if it's a Tesla.
Yeah.
Beat up like work van, and so we were driving. I was like, we should get gas, even though like we're almost full. I was like, we should still get gas, and they're like, no, we'll be good. And we start driving, and we're like, there's no gas stations there. We're running out of gas. So we looked up a gas station. It was 20 miles out of the way.
Oh.
And we drove into the middle of nowhere. Like this place was called Spur, Texas. They had 256 people live there. Population 256. There's a giant spur.
Yeah.
Like in the middle.
That's probably where they filmed like The Hills Have Eyes. Right there.
Yeah, the gas station was like the grocery store and the movie rental place.
God,
yeah. Oh yeah.
And the police station.
That's when you gas up and you can get out of there as fast as you can, man. That's what ever horror movie's made of.
But that's not where we're looking to go.
Yeah. No, you want to be clear away from that.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, definitely don't want to get, scooped up by a bunch of creepies and just be walking around to someone's new face,
Well, if you're ever stuck in a trunk, call me. We'll make our way out there, man. We'll get you guys.
I appreciate that.
It'll take us a couple days to find you, but we will find you.
Yeah. And what I do like about Texas is that, like, because they have so much space, is their infrastructure is already built for, like, populations way beyond.
Oh yeah.
What those areas, and you can see the development happening, but like every intersection's like 4 lanes plus 2 turning lanes.
What? Not like our Mass Pike?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, that thing's 50 years old
Jesus
now.
Christ. That Mass Pike. Every
like,
Friday I get on that pike, and I have to breathe, and then realize, like last week, my wife says to me, she starts laughing. She goes, "Every Friday you call me in the morning, and say, I got to be out of here by a certain time. And every week you call me and
See, he's back to unplugging. Look at all these benefits
you
can
are
get
never.
from-
Yep. So I had the most horrific time getting home on Friday. Route 20 was clogged. Route 9 was clogged. The Mass Pike was obviously clogged. And it's just one of those things where you have to exercise like that mindset. Like, it's okay. I threw a podcast on and actually talked to my wife for 2.5 hours on the phone. And we just talked, which was actually, so I always tell people, like, when shitty things happen, what can you think of that could have been positive during that whole thing? And the great thing was that we got a chance to talk, and we talked about some pretty deep stuff. And some of it was so frivolous, but we were exercising that muscle about talking to each other, because like my youngest daughter will be moving out soon. We're gonna have to find some stuff to talk about. You know what I mean? My oldest son's already gone, so it's like, what do people do when they're empty nesters? And you have to kind of find yourself. So I think, like, going back to the camper, I think that's going to be really good for us to have that alone time and stuff like that. And the kids can come there, but then, I'm kind of battling a little bit of the man, I'm getting old. Like, I'm going to be 50 years old in 2 years. My mental candle's like 12.
Do you yell at people to get off your lawn?
Nah, yeah, I don't care about the lawn.
All right. You're not officially old then.
But I do yell at them when they get in my lane on the turnpike.
I mean, I'm like a hawk over the thermostat at my house, so I know I'm like halfway there. Like, I'm like, what you turn, like, don't use too much hot water. Like, so I'm almost there, but I don't give a shit about my lawn. So I don't know if it's a prerequisite.
Well, today the wife went to go put the mini splits on, so she dropped it down to 65, and so I come home and it was hot in there. So I hear her with the mini split. Click, click. It actually beeps. Beep, 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 beep. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm putting it back up. I'm like, to what, 78? Like, I counted the number of beeps. Like, that's where I'm at, man. It's only going to get worse from here, I think.
I can hear the beeps.
But my daughter, it's so hilarious. So my daughter has a really good sense of humor, and she's taken after me, which is pretty disturbing. But she sends me a picture today. It's someone on a gas tank put a thing of Joe Biden on here that says, I did that, pointing to the gas prices.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
So she sends me that today, so I'm very proud of her. That brought a tear to my eye that she's has a good sense of humor. So I'm sure she'll get in trouble for that one of these days if she hasn't already. All right, boys. We were at 2 hours. Another great podcast. I appreciate you guys coming down.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Is there anything you want to throw out there before we go?
Have anything specific? No.
So no fights lined up in the near future. Make sure you let us know when you do.
Absolutely.
I'm taking Brett, and we're gonna go.
Good.
We're going.
Yeah, sounds great.
We're taking the You Can't Handle the Blue podcast on the road.
Yeah, we're gonna have T-shirts. We're gonna get signs. We're gonna get some signs, maybe some faces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're gonna
we
get
gotta get
Jeff's-
with your wife. Let's see if she can give her those faces.
Bring the faces back.
I'll be right
We'll,
there.
we'll locate Jeff's modeling photos.
Yeah. So there is one of me that I was pouring water from a hose down.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Were you Marky Mark or something? Like-
Listen, man. I was a strapping young man back then. I know you can't see it now, but I was. And if anybody has that, I'm going to ask him if he still has it. Because would it be crazy if he did?
I think that should be like the new cover page for your podcast.
Definitely.
Like,
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
yeah. That should be the T-shirt. Should be the logo. Everything. Like,
Oh, God. I miss those days. I blame my
I just
wife
keep
that I missed
picturing
that.
like George Costanza on the couch, and like I'm not a huge Seinfeld fan, but that's like the iconic George Costanza.
Yeah, well,
he's
that
like
way,
in his
I'm that way
tidy
now.
whities.
Yeah.
You know, he's in his tidy whities, and he's like on like a couch, like on his, I don't know, like because he did some sexy photo shoot.
I just can't believe my wife doesn't throw up every time we make love. Because if I had to look at me the way she has to look at me, I would vomit every time. It's just the way it goes. So, all right, enough about me. Do you guys want to throw anything out there?
I'll shout out True Path Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
It's my buddy's Jiu-Jitsu foundation. They sell T-shirts and stuff to help kids in at-risk areas get Jiu-Jitsu training, rides, gis, like whatever they need. So True Path Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram, and they have a shop. You can buy stuff.
Nice. And where are they from?
They're based out of like Worcester and New York.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. We'll put them in the podcast. We'll put them in the end credits. We'll make up a little page for them.
Cool.
So make sure I get that before we go.
All right. Yeah, excellent.
All right, so I hope the toe heals up because we need you
you.
back out in the field.
Yeah, I'm getting there. We're getting
Don't
there.
be afraid to cut it off if it's going to get in the way.
Absolutely.
I mean, it'll just make you lighter. But I don't know if it'll put you in a different weight class, so you might want to calculate that
If
out.
it gets me down to 135, then we'll be good.
So, you know what? Take them both off.
Yeah.
Take the 2 big toes.
Do you know a weight class that you want to fight in again? Like, is there a
40.
goal for
Yeah, 145.
145?
Yeah, 145 is my weight class for now. Eventually, we'll see. Got to talk with some nutritionists and stuff like that. I'm probably about like 175 right now. I was 180 after Thanksgiving.
Were you really?
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I've been since the toe. All I've been doing is lifting. I've been doing a lot. I'm in the gym like every day.
Is that how you
still.
cut your weight? Is through lifting?
No,
I mean, diet. I mean, diet obviously
like
plays
yeah, no, I do a lot. Like, yeah, you have to diet and then like train, just like training in the gym. Like, but since I really can't do much with like MMA. I mean, I can do some like I said, I'm hitting the bag a little bit, but I still can't do a lot of the stuff that I'm like used to doing. So I'm just trying to get in there and just keep my strength up. And I ride the bike, 15 minutes every day. Then I lift, and then if I have time to hit the bag, I hit the bag a little bit. So that's what I've been doing. Just getting juicy.
Great. And on the way home today, I had 2 Burger King original sandwiches.
Listen, I thought you were trying harder.
I have no willpower, man. Like I mean, I do with some things, man. But
Warrior mentality applies everywhere.
yeah, I ate that sandwich like a warrior. It was done like in 2 seconds.
There's just something about a long chicken sandwich,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Drenched in grease. I've learned that you have to keep the wrapper on when you eat it because that's how it gets all over my dress clothes.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
I have
there's
the
an
same
art to eating a Whopper, and this is why I have no life.
Now we're hearing Jeff's true passion.
Yeah. I mean, look at me in all my glory. All right, guys. Brett, what do you got?
Shout out to my son's business, Blue Bee Apparel, bluebeeapparel.com, at Blue Bee Apparel on all your social media. New exclusive limited release coming soon to be announced. I'm sure it'll be announced on TikTok first. But I think it's going to be a continuation of his Be Something collection, which was really cool. He launched it last year. It was his most popular collection. And basically, in his girlfriend's handwriting, it's embroidered sweatshirts that like, be proud, be nice, be happy, and just different things, except it was B-E-E, as in be. So it's a continuation of that. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to go with it. He's done the Be Proud collection for Pride Month and everything. So, so that's always exciting. So if you follow him or are interested in like limited, really cool, and it's not cheap stuff. He makes really nice apparel.
He does.
Blue Bee Apparel, and my family's business, IQ Inc., IQ-Inc.com, screen printing, embroidery, printing on everything, anything. That's all I got.
And there it is. And I got nothing else. All right, guys. As always, peace.
Peace.